country and hopefully across Europe, across the world. But we said that we wanted to make our legacy about winning, and that's what we did.
Players lifted the winner's trophy, sang and danced to fans' favourite songs.
Freed from desire, mind and senses purified. Freed from desire, mind and senses purified. Freed from desire, mind and senses purified.
Agency report, Republic TV.
An Indonesian artist transforms old plastic containers from the streets into wondrous robot creations. Watch this report to see what he does.
An Indonesian artist Yusuf makes robot toys from recycled plastic. The Indonesian inventor has a knack for making gadgets out of garbage, transforming old plastic containers from the streets into wondrous robot creations. The visual shows the Indonesian inventor making robot toys.
Ya, nama saya Yusuf, biasa dipanggil dikenal Yusuf Formes karena memang saya bikin robot-robotan gitu dari barang bekas.
Visuals show his remarkable robot creations. The artist has also been seen at work in his studio as well as collecting plastic from the streets and discarded oil containers from auto repair shops. Yusuf says it is his hobby to transform old plastic containers. He also explained that it had also recently helped him cope up with the stress of becoming unemployed at the start of the pandemic. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
A weekend wildfire which broke out in the southern French Gard region was contained on Monday. As per firefighter spokesman, 370 hectares were burned and 2 homes were affected by the flames. Making a splash, daredevil divers jumped from Mostar's historic bridge. In a tradition dating back to the 17th century, visuals show athletes getting ready to jump before taking the final leap into the water. The first recorded jump was in 1664. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov wishes the soonest recovery to an ex-presidential envoy of Russia currently in intensive care in Europe. Anatoly Chubai, who resigned as a high-ranking advisor to Russian President Putin and left Russia in March, was reported to be in intensive care in a European hospital on Sunday for a neurological disorder. Kosovo's authorities have moved to ease mounting ethnic tensions in the country by delaying a controversial order on vehicle license plates and identity cards. The tensions triggered riots by minority Serbs who put up roadblocks, sounded air raid sirens and fired their guns into the air. The European Commission on Monday urged authorities in Kosovo and Serbia to resolve rising tensions through dialogue and negotiations only, as Kosovo delays measures stirring tensions with minority Serbs.
Well, the European Union and the member states, of course, we are following the events and developments, especially in North Kosovo, very closely and with concern. What is important to say on behalf of the European Union is that everyone involved in this needs to remain calm, and any uncoordinated and unilateral actions that jeopardize the stability and security on the ground and which impede the freedom of movement of all citizens there need to stop immediately.
The European Commission has welcomed the departure of the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain from the port of Odessa under a deal brokered by the UN and Turkey that is expected to release large stores of Ukrainian crops to foreign markets. And you're watching World This Morning. Coming up next is the Morning Express. A night to remember for Indian judokas. Vijay Kumar Yadav clinches bronze for India at CWG 2022. All the details. Stay tuned. Also coming up, monkeypox case tally rises to 6 after Nigerian national in Delhi tests positive for the virus.
In the CBSE 2022 boards, the toppers for classes 12 and 10 are from Amity once again. At Amity, we are privileged to educate brilliant students and express our gratitude to our teachers and school leaders who passionately work for the success of our children.
Look at the mountain of cash! राहुल गांधी को हिरासत में लिया जा रहा है। बड़ी खबर, बड़ी जानकारी। About 7:30 in the morning, the enforcement directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 enforcement directorate officers is in progress.
Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. He wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balad Estate.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
Sanjay Pandey has been arrested and many more arrests are now going to follow. This was a conspiracy by the rest of the media to black out the news about Sanjay Pandey. Sitting minister has been arrested. Minister's closest aide has been arrested. 22 crore rupees almost in cash has been recovered.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
About 7:30 in the morning, the enforcement directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 enforcement directorate officers is in progress. Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. He wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balad Estate.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the
इंडिया को रिप्रेजेंट किया और इंडियन फ्लैग को वहाँ पे देखा इटली में, तो कैसा लगा तुम्हें?
जब मैं वहाँ पहुँची, मैंने देखा इंडिया का फ्लैग, वाह, ये तो मैं इतनी खुश होगी कि नहीं, अब तो कुछ करके दिखाना है। इंडिया का फ्लैग ऊपर होना चाहिए, बस इतना मैं चाहती थी और वो मैंने कर दिखाया। अगर आप इंडिया रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हो ना, हार नहीं माननी है, क्योंकि गोल्ड तो लेकर ही आना है आपको। बचपन से सर एक ही ड्रीम है मेरा, अब एक तो अपनी गेम को प्रोफेशनली यूज़ करना है, प्रोफेशनली आगे बढ़ाना है और वर्ल्ड ओलंपिक्स में गोल्ड लाना है इंडिया के लिए, अपनी स्टेट के लिए।
A lot of cash has been recovered from Raut's residence.
When MiG-21 fighter aircraft crashed in Rajasthan.
मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का चार्ज के बारे में क्या बोलना चाहते हैं आप?
BJP continues to demand answers from the TMC.
Finance Minister sets the record straight, but the opposition continues its hue and cry, set to rake up price rise debate in Parliament today. After reports of the first monkeypox-linked death in India, another test positive for the virus. The case tally now stands at 6. Shubhendu Adhikari is in the national capital to meet the Home Minister Amit Shah and the BJP's national president JP Nadda. India shines bright and high at Birmingham. Medal tally now stands at 9.
This week concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri.
Al-Qaeda chief Ayman Al-Zawahiri is killed in a US drone attack in Afghanistan. Saudi Arabia and Canada welcome the US strikes. Ayman Al-Zawahiri's killing is a step towards a safer world. Good morning and welcome. You are watching the Morning Express on Republic TV. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. We begin with news that's just come in. President Joe Biden has announced that the United States of America has killed the leader of the Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, in an airstrike in Kabul. Now, this, of course, is being seen as a big victory and also a reaffirmation of the US's stand when it was leaving Afghanistan that it will do all it can to protect its asset. So in that sense, this is something that is being hailed in the United States of America. Do remember that Ayman Al-Zawahiri was one of the masterminds of the 20s. All right. I'm going to go across of the 9/11 attacks. I'm going to go across to Major General K.K. Sinha, who now joins me on the phone line. Good morning, General Sinha. How do you see this? Now, at the end of the day, the U.S. says that this is something that is a reenactment of our commitment to fighting terrorism, because there was a lot of criticism that came their way when they left Afghanistan and the manner in which they did. But they say that we have continued to make sure that our interests and our citizens and our, soil is protected.
Yeah, this is a very great achievement as far, their fight against the terrorism is concerned, especially in Afghanistan. When they left Afghanistan, they left under a strategy. And that strategy or doctrine, what they have spelled out is above the horizon, doctrine, on which they said there is no point of putting the boots on the ground and carrying out the operations that they were carrying out from after 9/11. They were doing it for 20 years. But, this strategy or doctrine in the redeployment which they are doing it, basically, dictates that, it is you carry out with artificial intelligence, with, your assets located somewhere else, and you strike your target with precision. So they were able to achieve it, and this is the second, great achievement that they are now, Biden has said. It was, in Iraq, if you remember, it was Qasim Soleimani was also eliminated, which they had taken that time, Iranian, military leader. They have eliminated by this strategy only, where there is a precision, there is information, there is a strike, and above the horizon doctrine says that, basically they are using the Raptor type of UAV. Now, this happening in Afghanistan, it is a great thing because this is the first.
Right.
Mind you, it is 1 year it is happening. They left last 15th August, they left. Now this August, which already arrived, after 1 year, they are able to achieve something.
All right, Major General K.K. Sinha, appreciate your joining us. Thank you very much for your perspective. Let me also go across to Major General G.D. Bakshi now. Good morning, Major General Bakshi. Major General Bakshi, the U.S., of course, is hailing it as a huge achievement. They say it will bring closure to the 9/11 victims. But apart from that, of course, Afghanistan says that they did not have the right to do so and essentially to come into Afghan territory and strike at their target.
Those are just noises that the Afghans will make. There is nothing they can do about it. The simple fact of the matter is that Ayman Al-Zawahiri was number 2 of Al-Qaeda, and Dr. Saab, as he was called, is an Egyptian, and he was behind some of the most gruesome killings that this group had done. He is especially been targeting Americans, and so this is sweet revenge for the Americans that they have been able to finally knock him out. It was not that he was very active, because Al-Qaeda per se, their ability to act in a concerted manner has been considerably degraded. But nevertheless, he was one of the top targets. And for the Americans to have taken him out 1 year after their catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, when they left in near military disgrace, it was the way it was conducted. And if you recall, they had conducted a strike while that evacuation from Kabul was taking place, and they had claimed that, the Islamic State people who had carried out an attack on the Americans had been taken care of, and then there was a huge embarrassment when it was found they had not really eliminated any terrorists, but there was a family going in a car. So, the simple fact is that when you don't have boots on the ground, getting pinpoint accurate intelligence is a significant problem.
Now,
then carrying out the strike, you can do it once you get the 6-figure coordinates, the 8-figure coordinates, you can knock anything out.
Absolutely. Major General Bakshi,
is the problem.
What I wanted to ask you was that the US obviously is going to hail this as a huge victory, particularly after the chaotic withdrawal that we saw earlier. Now, what do you think of that?
That's precisely what I'm saying. Is despite that withdrawal, despite having no boots on the ground, they can get such accurate intelligence about such a high-value target. Well, that is creditable, because they are now out of Afghanistan. They have no assets on the ground. And of course, there are their operatives who are working under deep cover. But whether they've been able to get intelligence of this level, because intelligence about such top targets is not easily available. You have to pay a lot. You have to, there is no way of being sure that what you've been told is not just balloon. And we will also have to keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't turn out that but since it has been said at the highest level by the president himself, so this must have been cross-checked, and their source, ground source, must have been an A-grade source to have been able to, get them information of such a high-value target, extremely high-value target, and to be able to locate him when you have no boots on the ground anymore. You don't have, the chances of getting this kind of an intelligence are very slim, very slim. So if they have really done it, it is highly creditable.
Absolutely.
And 1 year, as my colleague was saying, 1 year after the withdrawal, if you've been able to stage a comeback of this order, without putting boots on the ground, you've been able to detect one of the most high-value targets of the Al-Qaeda setup, that he was actually
absolutely
after Osama bin Laden, he was number 2.
Absolutely.
And,
so in terms of
he was a real operations man.
Absolutely. So as you're pointing out, Major General G.D. Bakshi, in terms of the capabilities of the US to destroy a target, there is no doubt about it. Thank you very much for joining us. For the moment, I think we've got Mr. Sushant Sareen also on the phone line. Mr. Sareen, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Sareen, the US, of course, says that there will be a lot of talk about the fact that after a chaotic withdrawal, for this to happen, the US has incredible intelligence and all of that, and that it's also a great PR exercise for Joe Biden in terms of the fact that there was a lot of criticism that was aimed at them. But the Taliban says that this, in a sense, is against the Doha Agreement. How do you see this?
What more to this particular incident than meets the eye? To imagine that the Americans, it is possible, I don't rule it out, that the Americans had their own intelligence networks in place, that they had some kind of boots on the ground to mark the
I think we are running into some audio trouble with Mr. Sareen over there. We're going to try and fix that and go back, get him back in just a bit. But here's the announcement that was made earlier this morning by the US President Joe Biden.
My fellow Americans, on Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan, that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri. You know, Zawahiri was bin Laden's leader. He was with him the whole time. He was his number 2 man, his deputy at the time the terrorist attack of 9/11. He was deeply involved in the planning of 9/11. One of the most responsible for the attacks that murdered 2,977 people on American soil. For decades, he was the mastermind behind attacks against Americans, including the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000, which killed 17 American sailors and wounded dozens more. He played a key role in the bombing of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing 224 and wounding over 4,500 others. He carved a trail of murder and violence against American citizens, American service members, American diplomats, and American interests. And since the United States delivered justice to bin Laden 11 years ago, Zawahiri has been a leader of Al-Qaeda, the leader. From hiding, he coordinated Al-Qaeda's branches and all around the world, including setting priorities for providing operational guidance that call for and inspired attacks against U.S. targets. He made videos, including in recent weeks, calling for his followers to attack the United States and our allies. Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. People around the world.
I think Mr. Sareen is back with us. Mr. Sareen, that was a poor audio connection we had with you, but you were telling us about your view on this incident.
So what I was saying is that people did it on their own, on the basis of their own intelligence. They didn't have to, have any kind of liaison with either the Pakistanis, presumably whose airspace they overflew to take the drones to Kabul, or with elements in the Afghan government. Now, all of that is possible. But I am more inclined to believe that now you will probably see the Pakistani IMF loan coming through. This might have something to do with the conversation which the CENTCOM chief has been having with the Pakistanis and the Pakistani army chief's contacts with the Americans. This could have something to do with the U.S. Special Representative's visits to Doha, where apparently he met the Afghan or the Taliban Defense Minister Mullah Yaqub. This could have something to do with very credible reports of fissures within the Taliban camps between those from the south, the Kandaharis, and the Haqqani network. But I think more than anything else, what this attack tells us is that suddenly, the game has started all over again. It is possible that the Taliban might be playing the kind of double games that the Pakistanis used to.
Oh, yes.
You remember the Pakistanis used to tell the Americans that we will keep protesting, you keep attacking.
Oh, yes.
You keep carrying out the drone strikes, we will keep protesting. So it is quite possible that the Taliban are reaching out to the Americans, they need the money, they need the international support, and Zawahiri in any case was not such an important figure anymore operationally in many ways.
Absolutely.
So, he became the sacrificial lamb for the Emirates. That is also a possibility. And they are playing this kind of a double game. They'll give some of these Al-Qaeda guys but save the bulk of Al-Qaeda. So a lot of possibilities open up, including the possibility that the Americans can now take out people like Sirajuddin Haqqani, whose face is known, whose whereabouts are known, who's out in the open. So it suddenly makes a whole lot of these Taliban characters very vulnerable. So I think that there are many exciting possibilities coming out of this one incident.
So, Mr. Sareen, do you think that the protestations that we see coming in from the Taliban leadership in Afghanistan saying that this essentially is against the Doha Agreement is just for face value? Because, you know, as you yourself said, it's going to help them, you know, get the money that they so much need. And apart from that, you know, for the US president and for his domestic constituencies, this is a great PR exercise, isn't it?
Look, I don't know how much this will impact on President Biden's, domestic politics, how much it will improve his credentials with the American people. That's even not my interest, really. But I think it's the other question which you raised which is more important. And the answer to that, I can only speculate. Look, it is possible that this is a kind of a double game from the Taliban. That on the face of it, they'll keep announcing that we have nothing to do with this attack, that we condemn it, that this is a violation of the Doha Agreement, all of that. On the other hand, it is possible that they are actually very incensed by this attack. Now, if it is the former, that this is just an eyewash kind of a condemnation, then it has one set of implications. It could be that the Taliban are now coordinating in secret with the Americans. We've also heard some talk of Americans releasing about $3.5 billion of the former Afghan Republic's foreign exchange reserve. This talk has already been in the air, and I am trying to link it up with this incident which happened last night. So one possibility is that. The other possibility is that this is reflective of the fissures within the Taliban ranks. That the people who are not very comfortable with the idea of the Al-Qaeda making a major comeback in Afghanistan have used this particular incident to deliver a message that the Al-Qaeda is no longer safe, that the Al-Qaeda will not enjoy protection. But if that is the case, then there is another set of implications, second order, third order effects. Does the Al-Qaeda disappear from Afghanistan? Does it lead to some kind of internecine warfare within the Taliban?
Right.
Does it lead to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which are more or less ideologically quite similar, make a compact, come together? Unlikely, but I'm not ruling it out completely. But I'm just throwing these balls in the air.
Absolutely.
Of the various possibilities which could emerge coming out of this one incident.
Absolutely. Mr. Sareen, appreciate you speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you very much for joining us. We've also got Major General S.P. Sinha on the phone line. Major General Sinha, good morning. Thank you for speaking to us on Republic TV. To begin with, what do you make of this? The US President, of course, says that 1 year on, we've still been able to go and do this in Afghanistan. The Taliban says that this is in violation to the agreement that was made in Doha. What do you make of it?
You see, the first thing is that it shows that America has a very good memory. It does not forget who its enemies are, firstly. Secondly, it proves the strength of America, that America, if it wants to kill anybody, it can locate and kill. No power on this earth can stop America. These are 2 points. Thirdly, what is in destroying such targets like Al-Zawahiri, what is the methodology? First of all, you have to be very, very sure about the location of that target. Where is the target? How well it is protected? And about the methodology, how to go about killing. So in this methodology, I personally feel that the location has been compromised by some people who are within Al-Qaeda, who are not very positively inclined towards Al-Zawahiri, and they must have leaked out the secret. The CIA has got a very effective network. It knows how to throw money and get the information. So once the target location was known to America, then the question was how to go about killing. So America rightly decided to use a drone, which has the capability to go undetected, and and it can violate airspace, go undetected, reach the target, and neutralize the target. So the pinpoint accuracy, that information is of vital importance. Now, what are the ramifications of this kill? Right. The ramifications of this kill are that Al-Qaeda has to look for alternate leadership. How good or bad will that alternate leadership emerge is the important question. But what is most important for the world is that how do we get rid of this menace of terrorism from the map of the earth.
Now, Major General Sinha, what I wanted to ask you was that after the US withdrew, do you think this is once again the great game beginning? Because, it's so similar to what the US has done time and again. Now, we have no doubt that they have great intelligence and they can go into any country and pull anybody else. But the point is they would have needed local support. Now, does this also then prove that the Taliban perhaps, is divided in its leadership and the US is at it again?
You see, Taliban has made a statement that it is a violation of airspace. So it means that Taliban is against this killing. But if are the complete rank and file of Taliban against this killing? That is the moot question. So, but the most important thing I would like to say that how do we remove this menace of terrorism from map of the earth? And to me it appears that it has to be three-pronged attack on destroying terrorism from the map of the earth. First of all the terrorist organizations have to be identified. They have to be made leaderless. Then the organization of those terrorist organizations, they have to be attacked. And the most important power that they derive is money. So this source of money needs to be totally closed, tapped, and destroyed. The moment they have no money, they cannot buy equipment. They cannot move around. They cannot train their people. So this is important. So until we have 3-point program, these things are not going to work. And another thing I would like to point out that drone strike is similar to what Israel did it inside Iran.
Right.
Israeli intelligence agencies picked up that top nuclear scientist when he was coming out after meeting president. And therefore, there were 3-4 vehicles. But intelligence exactly knew in which vehicle the top scientists were traveling.
Absolutely.
Other vehicles were not touched, but that vehicle was destroyed. So in such operation, effective, accurate, and pinpoint accuracy of the target is of vital importance. Because suppose there were in that flat there were 3 rooms, and the actual room in which Al-Zawahiri was staying was not destroyed. He would have get reprieved. He would have gone away from there. So you get just one chance to kill such targets, and that is important. So pinpoint intelligence accuracy is a vital importance. Secondly, it shows the powers of America, that what all high technology it has got. It shows the powers of CIA network.
Absolutely.
It shows how CIA network can penetrate in any rigid organization like Al-Qaeda.
Absolutely, and it would also have had support from neighboring countries like Pakistan. Major General Sinha, thank you for joining us for the moment. I think we've also got with us on the phone line right now Colonel Arasan Singh. Colonel Singh, good morning. Colonel Singh, how do you see this targeted attack and the killing of Ayman Al-Zawahiri? The US says it's a huge victory and closure perhaps for the victims of 9/11. The Taliban government says that this is a clear violation of the Doha Agreement.
This is a very welcome news for India, because it was Al-Zawahiri who had announced the establishment of the Al-Qaeda setup in Assam. And today Assam, that area of Dhubri and Barpeta, that region is in conjunction with Bangladesh, is serving as the epicenter of Salafism, and feeding terror into more visible areas of the country. So to that extent, it's a very, very welcome development of India. It is, remember one thing, that there is nothing called local jihadism. Every jihadi organization is actually pan-Islamist in orientation. And of course, he was one of the key figures of pan-Islamism. Al-Qaeda has different chapters in different parts of the world. You saw the Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda in Yemen and Iraq. Then you have, of course, the Boko Haram. These are all various chapters of Al-Qaeda. And to distinguish between, to differentiate between the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and treat them as, different organizations would be a great mistake.
All right.
They have more issues of convergence than divergence. So to that extent, it's a very, very welcome development. And
Absolutely.
also it is an indication of the change in warfare. All of us, there are many people here.
Absolutely, Colonel Arasan Singh, that's a very important point that you bring out, because this was a drone killing. Thank you very much for joining us at the moment. I think we've also now joined by our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor. Abhishek, good morning, Abhishek. What we are hearing is that this, was a targeted location. It was in the Afghan capital of Kabul, and a US drone strike that killed the leader of the Al-Qaeda in an area that was really close to the US embassy building. But also, Abhishek, as we've been talking about it, it would have required a lot of local ground intelligence as well as support from a country like Pakistan, perhaps.
Well, absolutely. It goes without saying that this kind of argument of the top criminal terrorist would not have happened without some elements of the Taliban regime really shielding him, and security agencies in fact believe that the Haqqani network, which is now integral to the regime, might have done that. The interior, in fact, is of the Haqqani group, and support from the Pakistan. Remember, Pakistan always sees Afghanistan as an area of influence, as a nation which is providing it a strategic depth, and whatever happens in Afghanistan invariably has a Pakistan link. So obviously the agencies would be looking at it, but Ayman al-Zawahiri, like in the case of Osama bin Laden being found in Abbottabad, could not have been there on the outskirts of Kabul without protection from some elements within the Taliban regime. We have seen a statement coming in protesting from Kabul, protesting the American drone strikes. Obviously, they can't do much beyond this. What this shows is the American capabilities in the region are still intact, and I would say that it comes in the backdrop of a standoff that the Americans are having with the Chinese. So I think it sort of bolsters their position in terms of standing their ground.
Absolutely, Abhishek. Thank you for joining us. As you're pointing out, of course, the Taliban spokesperson has come out and said that we condemn this. The actual statement says the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan strongly condemns this attack on any pretext and calls it a clear violation of the international principles and the Doha Agreement. Thank you, Abhishek, for joining us.
Slipping into a very short break. On the other side, when we come back, we'll get you all the latest on how Zawahiri was eliminated by the US using Hellfire missiles. We'll tell you how the missiles is used to carry out precision targets. All that and more on the other side. Stay tuned.
In the CBSE 2022 boards, the toppers for classes 12 and 10 are from Amity once again. At Amity, we are privileged to educate brilliant students and express our gratitude to our teachers and school leaders who passionately work for the success of our children.
Good evening and welcome, viewers. Sanjay Raut has no guts. Sanjay Raut has no guts to face the 672 families whose homes were demolished as part of a redevelopment project in Mumbai. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Sanjay Raut has no guts. Sanjay Raut has no guts to face them and explain how, while the corrupt developer HDIL made over 1,000 crore profit, one of HDIL's henchmen kept putting money in Sanjay Raut's wife's account. Yes, Sanjay Raut has no guts, ladies and gentlemen. And he won't have the guts as he spends tonight in jail to tell the people of the country how his 672 families remained homeless. He was making money from those who demolished the homes and never gave the families of those who lost their homes a roof over their heads. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sanjay Raut has no guts, and frankly, Sanjay Raut, who the Lutyens media loves,
Sanjay Raut को निकल चुकी है ईडी की टीम।
Mr. Raut, 4 दिन की रिमांड है, 4 दिन की रिमांड.
At Jabalpur, there's been a fire at a hospital. 5 lives have been lost.
Top headlines at 8:30. Al-Qaeda chief Al-Zawahiri killed in US drone attack in Afghanistan. Saudi Arabia and Canada welcome US strikes, say Al-Zawahiri's killing is a step towards a safer world. Taliban upset with Al-Zawahiri's killing, alleges violation of agreement, says US attacked civilian area. Finance Minister sets record straight, but opposition continues, UN cries, says set to rake up price rise debate in the parliament today. After reports of first monkeypox-linked death in India, another tests positive for the virus. Case tally now rises to 6. Shubhendu Adhikari in national capital to meet Home Minister Amit Shah and BJP National President JP Nadda. India shines bright and high at Birmingham. Medal tally now stands at 9. Good morning, viewers. Thanks for tuning in this Tuesday morning. I'm Samiksha Srivastava and you're watching the Morning Express. A lot lined up for you in this edition of our broadcast, starting with breaking news coming in. Now, the public has accessed the Washington Post map of where Al-Zawahiri was killed. Al-Zawahiri, remember, was taken out really close to the US embassy is what we understand at this point. So remember Al-Zawahiri, who was eliminated late last night in a US drone strike where Hellfire missiles were also used to carry out the precision strikes by the US there. Al-Zawahiri was head of Al-Qaeda terror outfit. He carried out several terror attacks as well. In fact, what we understand is that Zawahiri was eliminated in the heart of Kabul is what we are given to understand. The attack was carried out using precision strikes, precision airstrikes via Hellfire missiles by the US forces. He was killed in the heart of Kabul is what we are given to understand. He was killed late last night at around 9:30 p.m. ET is what estimated time is what we understand. A lot of information trickling in. Remember, Zawahiri was head of Al-Qaeda terror outfit. It was on September 11, 2001 attacks, for which he was also the mastermind. He was Osama bin Laden's successor as well. And on your screens right now is a map of where Zawahiri was killed. As you can see in that map clearly, he was killed in the heart of the Kabul city there. The attack happened using precision airstrikes by the US. And the attack was carried out using an air-to-surface missile, Hellfire, used for precision strikes. And we have a guest also joining in right now. Major General Rajan Kochar is joining us. Major General, good morning. A big win there for the US, in fact for the world, because Zawahiri, as we understand, was one of the most wanted terrorists. If you could give us your first reaction.
You're absolutely right. This is a major strike and a major victory for Biden, because his popularity has been on the decline for quite some time now. And this action of his is likely to, first of all, improve his rating, and secondly, it was at the right time, because Al-Qaeda was regrouping, and Al-Zawahiri was a master strategist. After 2011, he was heading the Al-Qaeda, and he was trying to
get close to Taliban. There were reports of his increasing communication with the Taliban as well as extending the reach of Al-Qaeda in Western Africa also. So it was a very timely strike, and it also brings to focus the relevance of the United States in Afghanistan today. We had practically written off, or the media had practically written off the United States from Afghanistan, but this clearly shows that United States is closely monitoring the situation in Afghanistan, and whenever it so desires, it can launch a strike without getting into a warlike situation. And the role of Pakistan in helping the United States also cannot be discounted at this stage, because Pakistan is already on the grey list of the FATF and according to reports is likely to come out in the next meeting of FATF. So possibly this intelligence sharing between Pakistan and United States, because we need to understand one thing very clearly, that without intelligence, this strike could have been carried out so successfully. So the role of Pakistan will always be under a scanner in this, and I'm quite positive that the kind of cooperation Pakistan would have given the United States in carrying out this strike would be extremely relevant for the Indian subcontinent also.
Yes, Major General Rajan Kochar, please stay with us. We also have Major General SP Sinha joining us. Sir, thanks for speaking to us. If I can get your response, a big win there for, in fact, the world. Zawahiri, as we all know, was one of the most wanted terrorists. If we can discuss more about the Hellfire missiles that were used to carry out these precision strikes to carry out this operation by the US.
You see, first of all, this incident proves certain points. Firstly, America has not forgotten 9/11. America does not forgive any terrorist organization which created Twin Tower attack, and so many Americans were killed. That is second. Third is, it proves availability of very, very sophisticated high level of technology with America. It proves the effectiveness of CIA network, intelligence network. It proves CIAs can at will penetrate into inner core group of any terrorist organization, because if you want to target Al-Zawahiri and kill him, and therefore you have to know the exact location of Al-Zawahiri, where is he staying, in which room he is staying, and once, so for carrying out any such operation, there are three important factors. What is the location of target, how well he is entrenched, how well he is protected, how to break the shield of that protection, how to go about killing, and then with what methodology you use, which weapon system do you use. So location was known by effective intelligence network. How to kill, America chose to use the drone. And let me tell you, drone is such a powerful platform weapon system that it can go undetected and reach the targets and destroy the target at its own will. So these three important factors have played a very important role. It also goes to prove that all is not well within Al-Qaeda, because maybe America must have used money power to ensure that exact intelligence network and location of Al-Zawahiri is known to them. Once location is known, then the operational planning gets into action. But the most important thing I would like to mention is that yes, you have removed Al-Zawahiri, but for Al-Zawahiri, instead of Al-Zawahiri, somebody else will assume the command of Al-Qaeda. You see, if you really want to destroy the terrorism, the menace of terrorism from the map of this earth, then you have to go about in a very, very deliberate manner. And it is my belief that there has to be 3-point program, how you can remove this menace from the map of the earth. Firstly, make terrorist organization leaderless. Secondly, you get after all this terrorist organization and continue weakening them. Thirdly, you ensure that money power, that terror funding does not take place, because from somewhere these terrorist organizations are getting money, and that is the source of their power. That is why they can buy weapons, they can train their jihadis. All these factors accrue from the fact that they have money. So until unless the whole world, all the powerful nations of the world get into action like this, I think this is one important chapter which America has achieved. But there are many important chapters to be achieved.
Yes.
The single achievement should not give consolation to America that all is well. The battle has just started. It's a big battle, long battle, and then America has to prove its worth, because this terrorism which arises out of the very strange concept of Islam, this has to be neutralized. Until unless that is done,
that's right, Major General. And also the fact the Taliban condemning the attack that has been carried out by the US, does it only point out to the fact that Taliban, along with the Pakistan, of course, could be shielding Zawahiri when this attack was carried out, and given the fact that the attack happened in the heart of Kabul city?
You see, there are two angles to it. Firstly, it's my belief that Taliban, by making this statement that their airspace has been violated, Taliban, the Afghanistan government is trying to show its concern and trying to show its support for Al-Qaeda. They don't want to annoy Al-Qaeda, otherwise it will have serious ramifications within Afghanistan. But it's my belief that there are few elements within Taliban who are happy with this development of this elimination of Al-Zawahiri. So this, if you feel that Taliban as an organization is 100% one team, I personally feel it may not be correct to interpret this. And let me tell you one thing, that until unless all world superpowers combine, things are not going to improve. Because you replace Al-Zawahiri, Osama bin Laden went, Al-Zawahiri picked up the command.
Yes.
Al-Zawahiri has gone, somebody else will pick up the command. So this power of baton will keep shifting. You have to kill the snake. You have to kill the snake by
Well, that's right. Major
snake.
General, yes, appreciate your point there. Just stay with us. Let's once again listen into what President Joe Biden had to say on carrying out this attack in which Zawahiri was eliminated. And before, in fact, we play out that soundbite of President Joe Biden, remember the US used Hellfire missile to carry out this particular strike in which Zawahiri was eliminated. We have our senior executive editor Abhishek also joining us. Abhishek, if you could talk to us more about the Hellfire missiles that were used by the US to carry out this attack in the heart of Kabul city.
Samiksha, it's Hellfire R9X missiles, also very major bomb, and we hear that this is a missile which is specifically tailored for human targets in a manner that it sort of reduces collateral damage. It is essentially a variant with kinetic warhead and blink and moves with a remote. It can be taken on a remote, and it is an explosive, so just hit the target and kill the target on the spot. Why this is important is that, as reports suggest, Ayman al-Zawahiri was in the balcony of the house. He was hit, and that the family was there in the same compound, but they were not harmed, and that's significant because which means that which indicates a very specific intelligence and information that the CIA had before carrying out this strike. Also remember that Biden in the statement between play had clearly said that he was shown a model, a scale model of the house which was hit, where Ayman al-Zawahiri was hit in the Situation Room in the White House, which means they had specific dream for them, and that shows that the over-the-horizon capability of the United States, which was put under doubt. Remember when the United States was exiting, and after an Al-Qaeda strike at the airport, which killed 7 U.S. Army personnel, a strike had gone haywire and some civilians were hit and killed. So I think in that sense, this really brings focus back on the U.S. capabilities and things then still on top of things despite not having boots on the ground. Remember, there are no soldiers of the United States in Afghanistan now. In fact, only last week the U.S. has opened its embassy in the Sharjah place, going there like everyone else is normalizing the relationship, given the fact that the Taliban regime is going to be there for a while. But what is important is that Ayman al-Zawahiri had moved into Kabul during the Taliban regime, and that really raises doubts about the intent of Taliban, or you can question their intent when they make statements like their soil is not going to be used for terror. The fact that Ayman al-Zawahiri moved into Kabul only after Taliban took over.
Yes.
There are clearly elements within the Taliban regime and the Kabul government that are shielding terror and facilitated Ayman al-Zawahiri's very protected stay in Kabul till the US Hellfire missile.
All right. Yes. Abhishek, thank you so much for getting us all those details. So the top focus now, the role of Pakistan as well as Taliban, which is now under scanner with regard to shielding of Zawahiri, who's now been eliminated by the US forces. Slipping into a very short break. On the other side, we'll continue to get you all the latest reactions after Al-Zawahiri was eliminated by the US forces in the heart of Kabul city.
In the CBSE 2022 boards, the toppers for classes 12 and 10 are from Amity once again. At Amity, we are privileged to educate brilliant students and express our gratitude to our teachers and school leaders who passionately work for the success of our children.
At 7:30 in the morning, the Enforcement Directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 Enforcement Directorate officers is in progress.
Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. He wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balad Estate.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
Protesters are trying to exert force on the barricades and trying to break it down.
Mr. Chatterjee, would you like to report?
Sonia Gandhi coming out of the, and we can see Priyanka Gandhi is also here along with Sonia Gandhi.
Sanjay Raut sitting outside his residence. He has come out. He has come out.
Sanjay Raut is being brought here by the Enforcement Directorate. Sanjay Raut's car.
Mr. Raut, 4 दिन की रिमांड है, 4 दिन की रिमांड. कुछ कहना चाहते हैं आप? पत्राचौल स्कैम, मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का चार्ज के बारे में क्या बोलना चाहते हैं आप?
Look at the mountain of cash.
राहुल गांधी को हिरासत में लिया जा रहा है. बड़ी खबर, बड़ी जानकारी. About 7:30 in the morning, the Enforcement Directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 Enforcement Directorate officers is in progress.
Tracking the big story this hour of the big win there for the US as well as for the world as one of the most wanted terrorists. Zawahiri, the Al-Qaeda chief, has now been eliminated in a strike that was carried out by the US in the heart of Kabul city. And in the latest, what we are learning is that the Taliban has condemned the killing of Al-Zawahiri, who is one of the most wanted terrorists. As I just mentioned, a lot of reactions as well trickling in. More information that is coming in that the attack was carried out just 13 minutes away from the Pakistan embassy as well. Let's once again listen into what President Biden had to say on the big operation.
My fellow Americans, on Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan, that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri. You know, Zawahiri was bin Laden's leader. He was with him the whole time. He was his number 2 man, his deputy at the time the terrorist attack 9/11. He was deeply involved in the planning of 9/11. One of the most responsible for the attacks that murdered 2,977 people on American soil. For decades, he was the mastermind behind attacks against Americans, including the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000, which killed 17 American sailors and wounded dozens more. He played a key role in the bombing of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing 224 and wounding over 4,500 others. He carved a trail of murder and violence against American citizens, American service members, American diplomats, and American interests. And since the United States delivered justice to bin Laden 11 years ago, Zawahiri has been a leader of Al-Qaeda, the leader. From hiding, he coordinated Al-Qaeda's branches and all around the world, including setting priorities for providing operational guidance that called for and inspired attacks against U.S. targets. He made videos, including in recent weeks, calling for his followers to attack the United States and our allies. Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. People around the world no longer need to fear the vicious and determined killer. The United States continues to demonstrate our resolve and our capacity to defend the American people against those who seek to do us harm. You know, we make it clear again tonight that no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
There'll be a very short break. We'll get you all the latest on the other side as a big question arises whether Zawahiri was given a safe haven by the Taliban in Kabul.
Sanjay Pandey has been arrested and many more arrests are now going to follow. This was a conspiracy by the rest of the media to black out the news about Sanjay Pandey.
Sitting minister has been arrested. Minister's closest aide has been arrested. 22 crore rupees almost in cash has been recovered.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested and he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
About 7:30 in the morning, the enforcement directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 enforcement directorate officers is in progress.
Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. He wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balad Estate.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
Protesters are trying to exert force on the barricades and trying to break it down.
Mr. Chatterjee, would you like to inform?
Sonia Gandhi coming out of the, and we can see Priyanka Gandhi also here along with Sonia Gandhi.
Sanjay Raut sitting outside his residence, he has come out.
After he was eliminated by the US forces, there are a lot of information that is just coming in. Question now arising whether the Pakistan as well as the Taliban provided a shield to the Al-Qaeda chief who was eliminated late last night by the US forces. Given the fact that he was eliminated just 13 minutes away from the Pakistan embassy, and the very fact that he took shelter in Kabul after Taliban took over Afghanistan. In fact, we are given to understand that that the Al-Qaeda chief had taken shelter in Kabul just earlier this year, which means after the Taliban took over Afghanistan. So the question arising whether Pakistan as well as Taliban were shielding the Al-Qaeda chief, one of the most wanted terrorists by the world, and in the latest we are also learning how the Hellfire missiles were used by the US to carry out the precision airstrikes. We are also given to understand that the Haqqani network role is also under scanner with respect to shielding Zawahiri in Kabul. We are told that Zawahiri moved to Kabul only earlier this year after the Taliban took over the Afghanistan, and the role of Pakistan, which is now under lens, the attack was carried out by the US forces just 13 minutes away from the Pakistani embassy and very near to the Iran embassy as well. So a lot of questions arising at this point. Remember, Zawahiri was the head of Al-Qaeda terror outfit after Osama was eliminated. He was also the mastermind of September 11, 2000 attacks. He was in fact Osama bin Laden's successor, as I just mentioned. He played a key role in the 1998 US embassy bombings as well, in which he was said to be the mastermind. He plotted the 9/11 attacks as well, and one of the US most wanted terrorists. So President Biden also giving his first response after the Al-Qaeda chief was eliminated, saying that justice has been delivered. The Haqqani network, which is also now under lens, so the Pakistan-backed Haqqani network role is also under lens with regard to shielding the Al-Qaeda chief, all this while given the fact that Zawahiri was eliminated in the heart of Kabul city. So several questions arising whether the Taliban was also, in fact, if Taliban also played a key role in providing a safe haven to the Al-Qaeda chief, who's now been eliminated in a US airstrike that was carried out late last night. So what we know so far is that that Zawahiri was in fact one of the most wanted terrorists, was the head of Al-Qaeda terror outfit. He was behind the September 11 terror attack as well. The big lead coming in at this point is whether Pakistan backed Zawahiri and if the Taliban was also in cahoots in providing a shelter to Zawahiri in Kabul city. So remember that Haqqani network, whose role is now under scanner, is said to have deep ties with Pakistan. In fact, Haqqanis are seen as ISI handmaidens in Afghanistan. So several questions arising at this point whether Pakistan as well as Taliban had all the knowledge as when Zawahiri was in fact hiding and had taken shelter in Kabul city. A very short break. On the other side, we'll get you the latest as a big win there as the most wanted terrorist, Al-Qaeda leader Zawahiri, who's now been eliminated by the US forces.
Look at the mountain of cash.
राहुल गांधी को हिरासत में लिया जा रहा है। बड़ी खबर, बड़ी जानकारी।
About 7:30 in the morning, the enforcement directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 enforcement directorate officers is in progress.
Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. He wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balad Estate.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
Sanjay Pandey has been arrested and many more arrests are now going to follow. This was a conspiracy by the rest of the media to black out the news about Sanjay Pandey.
Sitting minister has been arrested. Minister's closest aide has been arrested. 22 crore rupees almost in cash has been recovered.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested, and he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
About 7:30 in the morning, the enforcement directorate landed up here. The questioning of Sanjay Raut by these 12 enforcement directorate officers is in progress.
Preliminary set of questions were posed at Sanjay Raut when he was at his residence. who wasn't really cooperating, and that is one of the reasons why he's now been brought to the Enforcement Directorate's office at Balade State.
Sanjay Raut has already been arrested and it will be around 11:30 when he will be brought up before the special PMLA court where the ED will ask for the custody.
The protesters are trying to exert force on the barricades and trying to break it down.
संजय राउत को लेकर निकल चुकी है ईडी की टीम।
Mr. Raut, 4 दिन की रिमांड है, 4 दिन की रिमांड।
At Jabalpur, there's been a fire at a hospital. 5 lives have been lost.
Successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri.
A mega crackdown on terror. The Al-Qaeda chief, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, is killed in a US drone attack in Afghanistan. Zawahiri is taken out kilometers away from the US embassy in Kabul, but upset with the killing, the Taliban alleges a violation of the Doha Agreement. The world welcomes the US strikes as Al-Zawahiri's killing as a step towards a safer world. After Osama bin Laden, it's Al-Zawahiri. Pakistan's role in the protection of Al-Zawahiri becomes a top focus. After reports of the first monkeypox-linked death in India, another test positive for the virus, the case tally has now risen to 6. And India shines bright and high at Birmingham. The medal tally now stands at 9. Good morning and welcome. You are watching live and breaking on Republic TV. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. We begin with what we are getting as the inside details of the US strike that killed Ayman Al-Zawahiri in the heart of Kabul. Now, what we are given to understand is that the weapon that was used was a Hellfire missile, but this was improvised over the standard Hellfire with a kinetic warhead and pop-out blades instead of an explosive. That's why also it's called the Flying Jinsu. Now, intended of course to reduce collateral damage when aiming specifically at human targets. That's why it eliminated Zawahiri when he was standing in his balcony and others in the compound were not hit. So these are details that are now emerging in terms of what went into the taking down of Al-Zawahiri. Just to recap the details, we heard earlier this morning that Ayman Al-Zawahiri, the number 2 at the Al-Qaeda, was killed in a missile strike in the heart of Kabul. Now, this home where he was staying was just about 1.5 kilometers away from the Pakistan as well as the US embassies. What is being talked of course, is the precision airstrike that was made using a drone. Niranjan is also joining us right now. Niranjan, what we are learning right now is that this appears to be an improvised version of the standard Hellfire with a kinetic warhead.
Well, there's so many details that are now emerging, Nupur. I'd like to also go across to my colleague Shersha Nawabi. Shersha Nawabi has been reporting for us from Afghanistan. I'm trying to check if we have Shersha Nawabi. One of the most reliable reporters in Afghanistan, been working with us through the entire Kabul coverage, the takeover of Kabul, and Shersha is live with me from an undisclosed location. Shersha himself had a threat to his life during this entire switch in Afghanistan. So Republic is live from Kabul. Shersha, we're picking up these extremely critical details of Zawahiri's location and where he was eliminated. What are you picking up, and how close was it to the heart of Kabul? Shersha.
Yeah, thank you so much. As you said,
yesterday there was an incident that took place, and according to the information that I have got from the sources in Kabul, this incident has taken place in an area which is almost 2 kilometers away from the presidential palace of Afghanistan, where the Prime Minister of Taliban is based. So this incident has taken place in an area that in the past it was completely diplomatic and green zone. But now after that, the Taliban has taken the control of Afghanistan. They have got those guest houses that belongs to the foreigners and also to the diplomats, and instead of those foreigners, Al-Qaeda members are based in there. So it shows that the Taliban are misusing the world commitments against them, and also they are giving shelters to the Al-Qaeda group.
I'm putting sign.
Oh yes, absolutely. Now, any more details that you can share with us in terms of, the weapon that was used, as well as, talk of the fact that perhaps the Taliban may have been divided over this?
Dear colleague, as you said, in this attack, actually US has used its most high-tech technology, which is the drone attack. And also, Zabihullah Mujahid, the spokesperson of Taliban, has also confirmed this incident, that this attack has taken place by a drone, and they have condemned this attack. At the meantime, the Interior Ministry spokesperson has said that this incident was just a rocket attack in Sherpur, and there was no casualty reported because there was no one in that house. So generally at this moment, this difference between the organizations and government institutions in Kabul shows that the Taliban are divided so much on this issue, and they have lost everything that they had. Also the commitment that they were giving to the world in the past 11 months, that we are not supporting the international terrorists, including Al-Qaeda. It has created a new environment and also a new phase of relationship between Taliban and also the world. So possibly, some of my sources say that this attack and also this incident can harm the relations of the Taliban, and also it can increase the sanctions on the group. At the meantime, this incident may put more pressure on the group to somehow take a clear stand against the international terrorists in Afghanistan.
Right now, what we also understand is that the Haqqani network is supposed to have been behind moving him back into Kabul, and that happened about 11 months ago. So what are you hearing on that part of it?
Take the windows more.
Well, there are some unconfirmed reports that I have got from different sources. They are claiming that Al-Zawahiri was transferred to Kabul, and he was given shelter in this guest house that mainly belongs to the Interior Minister Salahuddin Haqqani. And also there are some unclear reports that in this incident two PA or personal assistants of Salahuddin Haqqani has been also killed. So it's clear that Haqqani has a clear relations with Al-Qaeda from the past, and these ties has created a new era and after taking power in Kabul. My sources also say that in this incident, They have also witnessed this issue that currently Sirajuddin Haqqani, the Interior Ministry of Islamic Emirat, is not on his duty, and also it shows that probably he has also gone away from Kabul, and he has gone to one of his hideouts.
Okay. Now we are hearing that there was a possible role of Pakistan as well, and Pakistan will also sort of have to be a little responsible for what has happened here. We are hearing that the Haqqani group's role is also under scanner. Can you confirm or tell us more about the role of the Haqqani group and the possible role of Pakistan in shielding Al-Zawahiri? Now we know that Pakistan has been extremely active in Afghanistan, especially post the Taliban takeover. Of course, things may not have been all right at the border, but you've been tracking the story and you know the role that Pakistan plays here.
Well, in this regard, I don't have any clue to say that there was a major fact or there was some kind of discloseness about this issue. But what I can say is that this incident has taken place, and there is no doubt that several groups that in the past they were mainly recognized as a terror group, they have turned to power, and it extremely shows that now they are going to rebuild their relations and ties with the international terrorists, and several sources claim that they have already made these ties and also in these relationships. So killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri in Kabul indicates that, well, the ties were so deepened, and also once again the Taliban were looking to change the environment and also share the power with their international partners from different countries who are mainly terror groups. So it's a clear sign that killing would bring a new phase in war against terror, and also in the relations between the Taliban and the world.
Yeah, just stay with me. I think we have Dr. Raghav Sharma and also Augustine, Group Captain Augustine Vinod joining us on the broadcast. Nupur, as we get more breaking news updates. In fact, we are told we are picking up some details of how he was taken down. Around sunrise Sunday, Al-Zawahiri walked out on the balcony of a house. Walked out on the balcony of a house in Kabul, Afghanistan. He lingered outside on the balcony, is what a US intelligence official had noted he often did. And on this Sunday morning, a US drone fired 2 Hellfire missiles at the Al-Qaeda leader as he stood, according to US officials, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss the strike. His presence in Afghanistan has been widely speculated for some time. US officials learning this year that Zawahiri's wife and other family members had moved to a safe house in Kabul. Zawahiri soon followed. US officials were joined by top leaders all the way up to eventually Biden, who spent careful months confirming his identity and his fateful practice of standing alone on that same balcony. He stood on a balcony and he was taken out. Group Captain Augustine Vinod, if I can come to you to get your views on this entire operation and the way it was carried out.
See, the operation was a precision strike. I mean, there is a version of Hellfire, which is 9 Bravo. This is R9 Bravo. R9 Bravo, instead of explosives like Nupur covered, has blades all across. The main reason was that Hellfire missile was an overkill missile. In fact, there were attacks where you couldn't find a human remain for DNA analysis. It was that kind of a missile, and rightly brought out by Nupur, collateral damage was huge. So there was a movement to remove Hellfire missile from Predator drones altogether. But that would have costed them money. So instead, they went and removed the warhead and put the blades, also known as the Ginzu, the flying Ginzu or whatever. But the major problem, if you remember during the Osama bin Laden's attack, was identifying Osama, which took them 120 days to identify, and they identified it through secondary means, not primary. Secondary means was that polio doctor went and got the DNA analysis of the children with whom they identified, yes, probably the tall man inside this safe hideout was Osama bin Laden indeed. But then they couldn't use hellfire at that time because they wanted to confirm. In this case, Zawahiri made a mistake of coming to the balcony, and once you show your face, it is very, very easy for any intelligence organization to identify you because your face has typical identification points like nose, cheekbones, tip of your nose, etc., etc. Sorry? Yeah, okay.
Right, please continue, Dr. Group Captain Augustine. Please continue.
Yeah. So with these identification points, now it became easy for the intelligence agencies to identify him and take him down. But most important thing that we need to understand is the Predator drones are flying without any issues over the FATA regions as well as over Afghanistan because the air defense is missing. That is what our viewers need to understand. That Predator drone strike or any drone strike is only possible when there is no air defense. Such kind of attack over a contested area is impossible. So that is what we need to understand how important air power is for any country. I mean, Taliban has now come to power, but they are not investing enough in air power, which is why the US is having a field day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Stay with us. Dr. Raghav Sharma from the Jindal School of International Affairs is also with us. Dr. Raghav Sharma, I just wanted to ask you, what do you make essentially of how important is it for Joe Biden's domestic constituency as well? Because look at the statements that have come out from the US. We've had Kamala Harris come out and say, you know, we are standing by our commitment to protect American citizens wherever they may be. On the other side of it, obviously, you know, to go into a country with the protestations that we see from the Taliban now and actually take down an important target, that does send a signal to the world as well that the US is as strong as it has always been.
Well, I think it certainly is a short-term win for the Biden administration. It gives a boost in the arm for their claims of, carrying out counter-terrorism operations over the horizon. But it doesn't take away from the fact the US, withdrawal from Afghanistan was chaotic. It was humiliating, and it has dented American capability and credibility. It is one of the most significant strategic defeats that the United States has suffered. It also doesn't take away from the fact that, the Taliban have been violating several provisions of the so-called Doha deal. One significant provision of which was that they're going to break ties with all foreign terrorist networks. And there's been ample amount of evidence prior to this counter-terror drone strike that, the Taliban have not broken off ties, not just with the Al-Qaeda, but they host a plethora of other terrorist groups. So you have groups like the IMU, the Jamaat Ansarullah. Look at who the Taliban's chief of army staff is. It's Qari Fasihuddin, who is actually, a member of the Jamaat Ansarullah, and the Taliban essentially made him chief of army staff, who essentially co-opted him into the governing structure of the Taliban and denied. It gives them plausible deniability that we don't have foreign fighters. And, the fact that Zawahiri is being found in the heart of Kabul underscores the fact that, how shallow the Doha deal was and how naive it was to go on Taliban assurances that they're going to break ranks with foreign fighters. So yes, it gives a shot in the arm. Politically, it gives the Biden administration a little momentum, so to speak.
Yes.
But in the long run, I think it doesn't take away from the fact that, the Al-Qaeda is back in Kabul with full force, and that's a disturbing development.
Oh yes, absolutely. Dr. Raghav Sharma as well as Group Captain Vinod, thank you both of you for joining us. We are of course waiting for that address to come in from the US President Joe Biden. We are continuing our broadcast of what the US claims is a major win in Afghanistan with the killing of Ayman Al-Zawahiri. He was the number 2 as far as the Al-Qaeda was concerned. Now, there are reports that seem to suggest that the Haqqani network had managed to move him back to Kabul just about 11 months ago. Just to give you more operational details about this precision strike that took down the Al-Qaeda's number 2. It took place earlier this morning at about dawn Afghanistan time, and we are given to understand that this area where the house where he was being kept, a safe house, was essentially just kilometers away from the Pakistan embassy. What we are given to understand also is that this was a guest house that actually belonged to someone who was connected to the Haqqani network, and the US guided missile that was dropped using a drone was able to target him specifically. It also does mean that the US agencies, of course, were very closely tracking Ayman Al-Zawahiri's movements. He was in his balcony when a precision guided missile actually took him down. Pictures on your screen are from the heart of Kabul where this attack took place. The US President Joe Biden, of course, did speak out earlier this morning where he said that this has been an attack which was extremely successful in taking down Ayman Al-Zawahiri. Now, Major General K.K. Sinha also joining me on the broadcast. Major General K.K. Sinha, I wanted to understand from you how much of intelligence would the US have used in this? Because look at the details that are now emerging. They've been obviously tracking him for a while. They knew exactly what time he comes out in the balcony, and then they used a precision guided missile to target him.
Acknowledge and it is only him by your artificial intelligence. On the ground and collected based on some source over and tracking him over a period of time. I was told that about 11 months back, Haqqani network actually moved him in the outskirts of Kabul, and then having gathering information, and I think artificial intelligence to great extent has been used. If you remember what happened as far as Hassan Soleimani was concerned, the artificial intelligence to that extent has been used where face recognition has been used to eliminate. So if there are say 8-9 people are there, the bucket has got a ability.
I think that's a very poor.
You can.
General Sinha, that's a very poor link that we've established with you. We'll just rework that and come back to you in just a second once we fix it. But as we are pointing out, of course, this appears to be a precision strike that has taken down the Al-Qaeda's number 2. Were on the FBI's most wanted list for many, many years. It took place at dawn this morning when in the heart of Kabul, the US special operation was able to take down this number 2 of the Al-Qaeda. It took place as he stood in his balcony. The US intelligence, of course, was tracking him for a while because it has now been reported that he often came out in the mornings and thereafter he was taken down. I think Niranjan also has more details on how this attack actually took place. Niranjan, it does become very clear that not just precision weapons were used, but also that the US intelligence had been gathering information for a while now.
Well, absolutely. This is the first video. By the way, we just had the first live report from Kabul, and we just have the first video of the area of the strike on Republic. This is an exclusive global lead on Republic. Global lead, we're getting you the first video. This is the first video on your screen of that area where he was eliminated, and I'm just getting you the details right now on your screen. On your screen, Al-Qaeda leader Al-Zawahiri eliminated in a strike. Republic, we just got you the first live report. We got you the first live report from Kabul. We're getting you the first video of the area where he was hit by a drone strike. He was taken down by a target, a precision strike by America. And this is the Sherpur area. I'm going to describe this area for you. This is the Sherpur area where, according to the Taliban statement, Al-Qaeda's Ayman Al-Zawahiri was hit by a US drone strike. These are tracking shots tracking shots from the Sherpur streets. And let's go back to the video, please. Let's stay with the video. I think people just want to see the video, and I'm going to stay with the video of the area. And let's tell you that he was taken down in an area, according to intelligence officials, according to the US, he was taken down when he went to his balcony. He was standing in his balcony when a precision Hellfire missile struck him. Now these are shots from the area. This is the Sherpur area on your screen right now. So when you were watching our coverage of the takeover of Kabul by Taliban, these streets look so familiar, because this is also the diplomatic enclave, very close to the diplomatic enclave where many of these embassies are located. So he was technically, he was in the safest area in Kabul. He was hiding in the safest area from Kabul, and the US president approved the operation last week. It was carried out on Sunday. Al-Zawahiri and Osama bin Laden, both of them plotted the 9/11 attacks. Osama was eliminated, and for the first time you have the video of and the confirmation coming in of Al-Zawahiri being taken down. I'm going across to Group Captain Augustine Vinod as well. While we stay on these pictures, I'd like to go and ask Group Captain Augustine Vinod. Okay, Wing Commander Praful Bakshi is also joining us. Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, sir, if I can get your expertise on how such operations are carried out. Osama's deputy has also been wiped out. We are hearing the role of Pakistan also being established in this. The Haqqani group especially, and the routes going all the way to Pakistan, and their role in hiding Al-Zawahiri here. That question, sir. Why don't you tell our viewers, Group Captain, about the nature of such?
Barack Obama, former president of the US, hails the Biden administration. Taking to Twitter, says he hoped these airstrikes would provide a small measure of peace to the families of victims of 9/11. Lauding the precision of the strikes, notes strikes on Zawahiri were carried out without a single civilian casualty. And coming up in a short while, all the updates, all the various aspects to be explored as Osama bin Laden's deputy killed in a US drone strike.
Reading allows us to become familiar with ourselves.
We don't read, we won't know what is knowledge. I just find it very interesting to know people's lives, how they went through certain situations, how they dealt with things.
So wherever you want to go in life, if you read books along those lines, then that would really help you in growing.
Reading could mean a million different things to every individual. What does it mean to you? Visit readindia.info to find out more.
An aerial attack was carried out on a residential house in the Sherpur area of Kabul. The security and intelligence agencies of the Islamic Emirate said that the attack was carried out by the American drones to eliminate Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. President Joe Biden hailed the drone attack where US intelligence officials tracked down Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri to a home in downtown Kabul where he was hiding out with his family. Biden called the mission a total success, saying that he hoped it brought closure to 9/11 victims. Vice President Kamala Harris called climate change an urgent crisis as she detailed the Biden administration's efforts to respond to disasters and wildfires. Harris announced more than $1 billion in grants to states to
to address flooding and extreme heat exacerbated by climate change. Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke at the United Nations meeting on the landmark Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, where he urged global leaders to declare Ukraine a new nuclear weapon-free zone. Clashes between the police and Departmental Association of Cocoa Producers took place in La Paz in Bolivia. Cocoa growers are demanding the closure of new illegal cocoa markets. The White House has welcomed the announcement that the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain has set out from the port of Odessa. U.S. officials also announced a new tranche of $550 million security assistance to Ukraine. Top national stories ahead of 75th Independence Day celebrations. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant urges the participation of all in Har Ghar Tiranga campaign to hoist the national flag at home from August 13 to 16th. Indian Police Service Officer Sanjay, who succeeds Rakesh Asthana as Delhi Police Chief on Monday, chairs meeting with senior police officers, taking stock of security situation in the national capital ahead of Independence Day celebrations. The CP on the first day in office instructs officers to be more vigilant during the period. Delhi court directs jail authorities to provide proper medical treatment to Khalid Saifi along with medication and tests after Saifi, accused in larger conspiracy of anti-CAA 2020 Northeast Delhi violence, moves application to Karkarduma court. And news and updates on the death of Ayman Al-Zawahiri, chief of the Al-Qaeda, who was killed in a US drone strike on Sunday. Coming up, all the details and updates on Republic. Stay with us. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov wishes the soonest recovery to an ex-presidential envoy of Russia currently in intensive care in Europe. Anatoly Chubai, who resigned as a high-ranking advisor to Russian President Putin and left Russia in March, was reported to be in intensive care in a European hospital on Sunday for a neurological disorder. Kosovo's authorities have moved to ease mounting ethnic tensions in the country by delaying a controversial order on vehicle license plates and identity cards. The tensions triggered riots by minority Serbs who put up roadblocks, sounded air raid sirens and fired their guns into the air. The European Commission on Monday urged authorities in Kosovo and Serbia to resolve rising tensions through dialogue and negotiations only, as Kosovo delays measures stirring tensions with minority Serbs.
Well, the European Union and the member states, of course, we are following the events and developments, especially in North Kosovo, very closely and with concern. What is important to say on behalf of the European Union is that everyone involved in this needs to remain calm, and any uncoordinated and unilateral actions that jeopardize the stability and security on the ground and which impede the freedom of movement of all citizens there need to stop immediately.
An aerial attack was carried out on a residential house in the Sherpur area of Kabul. The security and intelligence agencies of the Islamic Emirates said that the attack was carried out by the American drones to eliminate Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri. President Joe Biden hailed the drone attack where U.S. intelligence officials tracked down Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri to a home in downtown Kabul where he was hiding out with his family. Biden called the mission a total success, saying that he hoped it brought closure to 9/11 victims. Vice President Kamala Harris called climate change an urgent crisis as she detailed the Biden administration's efforts to respond to disasters and wildfires. Harris announced more than As Unified Payments Interface records 6 billion transactions in July, Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls it an outstanding accomplishment, says it is the collective resolve of the people of India to embrace new technology, asserts digital payments were helpful during the COVID pandemic. Amid the inflation debate in Parliament, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's speech, Congress leader Mallikarjun Kharge says opposition ready to discuss inflation and will keep issues in front of the House. Kharge further takes a jibe at the BJP, says party is unaffected due to inflation. Well, breaking news coming in now. Searches are underway at National Herald. Republic brings you all the details, the first updates. Breaking news as it happens. Searches underway at the National Herald. Clashes between the police and Departmental Association of Cocoa Producers took place in La Paz in Bolivia. Cocoa growers are demanding the closure of new illegal cocoa markets. The White House has welcomed the announcement that the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain has set out from the port of Odessa. U.S. officials also announced a new tranche of $550 million security assistance to Ukraine. A weekend wildfire which broke out in the southern French Guard region was contained on Monday. As per firefighter spokesman, 370 hectares were burned and 2 homes were affected by the flames. Making a splash, daredevil divers jumped from Mostar's historic bridge. In a tradition dating back to the 17th century, visuals show athletes getting ready to jump before taking the final leap into the water. The first recorded jump was in 1664. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov wishes the soonest recovery to an ex-presidential envoy of Russia currently in intensive care in Europe. Anatoly Chubai, who resigned as a high-ranking advisor to Russian President Putin and left Russia in March, was reported to be in intensive care in a European hospital on Sunday for a neurological disorder. Kosovo's authorities have moved to ease mounting ethnic tensions in the country by delaying a controversial order on vehicle license plates and identity cards. The tensions triggered riots by minority Serbs who put up roadblocks, sounded air raid sirens and fired their guns into the air.
He has caught the corrupt. How can we side with the corrupt? This logic is fundamentally flawed. The debate is not about the ED. The debate has to be about the corrupt. The ED is doing its job. The ED is catching proof of solid corruption, of dirty corruption, of anti-citizen, unbelievable corruption. The ED is doing its job. The debate has to be about the corrupt, the horribly corrupt, and the totally corrupt.
Well, in fact, news that we are following right now seems to suggest that there has been a massive development in the National Herald case. Searches are on at the National Herald House. Now, do remember that Rahul Gandhi as well as Sonia Gandhi have been questioned in the National Herald case by the Enforcement Directorate repeatedly. In fact, Rahul Gandhi was questioned for about 50 hours in this case, and thereafter Sonia Gandhi was consecutively questioned for 3 days. Shavan Sen is on the phone line. He has the details. Good afternoon, Shavan. Tell us more.
Look, this is a major crackdown by the Enforcement Directorate. Searches are now being carried out. We are being told at the National Herald House in the national capital. As of now, the confirmation only coming in of one location, but there is a high possibility that there could be more number of locations where these searches are being carried out to begin with. Now, this comes close in the heels of the questioning that has taken place of Congress President Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Remember, Sonia Gandhi was called in for questioning at least on 2 occasions, and as far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned, I remember they were called in for on multiple occasions. This is pertaining to the AJL scam, which the Enforcement Directorate has been probing. Remember, as far as the role of Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi is concerned, it has come under massive scrutiny by the Enforcement Directorate. In fact, top sources indicating that the properties linked to Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are also now under the scanner, because remember, all properties that have essentially been built by the proceeds of crime are now under the scanner of the Enforcement Directorate, which would essentially mean that there is a high possibility of a provisional attachment taking place. As of now, no confirmation really coming in with regards to whether at all there would be any sort of an attachment. But if you simply go by the PMLA Act, and the fact that the procedural, the procedure that is basically adopted by the Enforcement Directorate, one would certainly look at if at all they are in a position to establish that there has been a money trail and the proceeds of crime and the assets that have been bought from the proceeds of crime, which would basically mean that there is money laundering that is involved. It would essentially lead to the fact that such as these assets that were bought, they would be attached by the Enforcement Directorate. Right now, what is happening is that at least in the national capital, the National Herald House is being searched by the Enforcement Directorate. I'm being told that there could be more locations, but right now, no confirmation of which are the other locations where these searches are being carried out. Preliminary information really coming in at this point in time. In a short while from now, perhaps more clarity would likely to come in. Just a quick recap before I hand it back to you. Remember, Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi were essentially called in for questioning by the Enforcement Directorate after senior Congress leaders like Mallikarjun Kharge and Pawan Bansal were questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. The question here is that, the loan that was basically granted and thereafter the assets that were basically taken over, all of these decisions were taken by whom was one of the major bone of contention in this entire investigation. And secondly, who was basically responsible for it? What we are given to understand, there was an attempt that was basically made by Rahul Gandhi to basically pass the buck on Motilal Vora, someone who's no longer alive. And remember, the burden of proof basically lies now on Rahul Gandhi to basically prove the fact that it was Motilal Vora and the others who were present in the board and not them. But let's not forget that Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, they have been directors in the company to begin with. Secondly, they are stakeholders. Third, they are signatories. So to basically absolve themselves from this entire matter is something that hasn't really cut eyes with the Enforcement Directorate. So these are actions that are essentially being taken on the basis of the questioning that has taken place of Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. And perhaps now, in the days to come, there is a high possibility that the investigation is going to gain more momentum.
Now, Shavan, before we let you go, a couple of questions. What I wanted to ask you is that essentially that this case goes beyond the newspaper, because what we understand is that the real estate that belonged to National Herald, which is pegged at about 2,000 crore rupees, was owned by AJL in cities such as Delhi, the National Herald House over there, Mumbai, Patna and Panchkula is at the center of this case. Can you, for the benefit of our viewers, explain how this case actually goes beyond the newspaper to the assets that were owned by it?
Well, the assets are crucial. Reason being is that they are considered to be assets that have been built on the proceeds of crime. Question number one is with regards to the incorporation of a company called Young Indian, and then the transfer of properties that basically takes place. On the second count, where the criminality angle has been looked into by the court themselves, is the very fact that loans were basically provided, and loans, without any interest. Now, the fact of the matter here is that the AICC, office bearers of whom are basically Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Oscar Fernandez and Motilal Vora, they are also directors in Young Indian. This company, which was incorporated within a span of just 3 months, then the transfer of assets actually takes place, and also the loan exchanges that are basically taking place. All of that put together, remember, what the Income Tax Appellate Authority had essentially indicated is that there was roughly about over 390 crore. That is the amount of profit that was basically accrued by this particular company, and this was basically seen as also a penalty was basically levied by the appellate authority. Remember, this was challenged by Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi in the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court, on the other hand, upheld the appellate authority's jurisdiction, and secondly, their findings in this entire case. More importantly, they found no relief. It was only when prima facie the courts basically found substance in the investigation that was basically carried out. They had basically named them in the FIR. And secondly, what was more important here is that they were basically summoned by the court also. Later on, they were basically granted bail, but that was good enough for the Enforcement Directorate because the court basically came to a conclusion that there is an angle of money laundering, and this comes under the PMLA Act, and that is the reason why the Enforcement Directorate had stepped in. Something that was criticized by the Congress party time and again, saying that there is no predicate offence, which would essentially mean there is no FIR in this particular case. But let's not forget, this was way beyond the FIR stage, because it was the court themselves in their findings have prima facie they believe that there is a case that is cut out and it requires further probe.
Right now, Shravan, at the core of this case also is the question, why was YIL just formed essentially to transfer this loan? Why did the AICC need to transfer the loan to YIL? And what was the benefit that they expected from it? Now, the courts have been pretty clear in that as well. You know, the Delhi High Court in 2014 said that the Young India Limited indeed appeared to be a sham or a cloak to convert public money to personal use.
Well, you're absolutely right, Nupur, because what has essentially happened is that these are sham transactions that have basically taken place. In order to avoid the gaze of the investigative agencies, what they've essentially done is incorporated a company within a span of just about 3 months without paying any income tax. Secondly, what is very important to point out here is the fact that what they have essentially done is the properties or the commercial assets that were with AGL that were basically taken over for commercial purpose. And secondly, all these properties that were basically made over a period of time was what the Enforcement Directorate believes was from the proceeds of crime. And imagine a situation where they are making this kind of a loan transaction that takes place without any interest, and secondly from a company which basically has no business, no employees. So the fact of the matter is that when you do not have any employees, when you're making no business, where is the money really coming from? That's the big question that one perhaps needs to answer. And this is exactly what Sonia Gandhi as well as Rahul Gandhi were also essentially asked to explain, which it appears at this point in time that they haven't been able to do so, but rather what they have essentially done is they have basically passed the buck by saying that financial decisions were essentially taken by Motilal Vora. What is important to point out here to our viewers is that Motilal Vora is no longer alive to really explain whether at all these decisions were taken by him. But what a counter to this is that when you are part of the board, when you are a signatory, how is it possible that you were not involved in the decision making?
Right, stay with us, Shravan, just to tell our viewers that raids are being carried out at the National Herald House in New Delhi. As we've been pointing out, this case is not just limited to National Herald. It goes beyond that scope, and Shravan Sen has been taking us through that. Shravan, I wanted to bring you back to the judgment of the Delhi High Court, in which it says that it appears that a special purpose vehicle of Young India Limited was founded particularly with the criminal intent to be able to transfer money. Now, that in a sense is the crux of what the ED is after, is it not?
Look, before I answer your question, there's some more details that are coming in right now. I'm now being told that the searches are being carried out at almost 10 locations. We are not very sure whether this is only limited to the national capital or this is a pan-India search that is being carried out. But certainly it appears from the magnitude of this particular searches that are basically carried out, it does appear that this could very well be beyond the national capital. First confirmation that we had was only about the National Herald House here in the national capital, but there are assets which the Enforcement Directorate had essentially got. Assets that was asked by the Enforcement Directorate to Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi during the questioning that they need to furnish. It would be safe to assume at this point in time that following the questioning...
I'm going to come back to you, Shravan, in just a bit. Mr. Bhatia from the BJP on the phone line with us. Mr. Bhatia, National Herald House as well as some other locations are being now searched by the ED. Now, it goes on to, in a sense, question the fact that the Congress party and its senior leadership did form a special purpose vehicle to go ahead with corruption, and these were proceeds of crime in a sense.
Absolutely, it's a very welcome sign that the ED is now punishing and ensuring that a very thorough investigation takes place against even the so-called high and mighty during the Congress regime. And let us also not forget that law is the same for everyone. The Gandhi Parivar is not above the law, and this government has zero tolerance for money laundering and corruption, and thus this is a very welcome move.
Right, Mr. Bhatia, the defense of the Congress party has been that the centre is targeting its senior leadership. But the fact of the matter is that, repeated questioning of both Sonia and Rahul Gandhi does prove that there was corruption perhaps that took place, and the ED has been significantly watching out for that. And also the High Court, Delhi High Court, which, in its ruling, which clearly pointed out that there was an attempt to hide corruption. And in that sense, do you think that these searches now actually prove that point?
Not just the Delhi High Court. It's an important fact that all the viewers of Republic should know that Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi had moved the Honorable Supreme Court also for quashing of the charges. And the Honorable Supreme Court declined relief. This was in a matter pertaining to cheating. Section 420 was invoked in the National Herald case, and now they're facing money laundering charges. And for opposition parties that cry foul and say this is political wedding, how is behind bars for the last 9 months, Nawab Malik for 5 months, Satinder Jain for 2 months, and they have not even been granted bail. These are questions that are being posed by the people of the country. Why should any family feel that they have the birthright to loot the country?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Bhatia. I think we've got Mr. R.P. Singh also with us on the phone line. Mr. R.P. Singh, the ED is now conducting raids not just on the National Herald House in New Delhi, but we're also given to understand that perhaps 10 other locations are being raided. What do you make of this? Does this, in a sense, actually squarely hit on the criticism that the Gandhis have been making, that this is an attempt to target them? The ED obviously is carrying out these raids on basis of their statements.
Well, the Gandhis are not some very special entitled families in the country. They are like us and you. If we conduct any fraud or any impropriety, then we are bound to be surveyed or to be raided. I mean, that's the very normal process. So why shall they feel that they are some privileged class or they're born with some silver spoon and they can't be questioned or raided? It's very normal. And then they would have said something in the during the inquiry, and out of that, the ED would be conducting the raids to gather more data and more information.
Right. Also, just going back to the judgment of the Delhi High Court, which had, in fact, in 2014 said that we believe that YIL is indeed appears at least to be a sham or a cloak to convert public money for personal use. Do you think what we are seeing today in terms of raids being carried out goes beyond the newspaper itself? It actually goes to all the properties that now appear to have been seized.
Well, issue is they have used a Kolkata route, a company in Kolkata named Judo, from where the money was routed back to their company. So that route has to be traced and tracked. That why did that company give money to Young India, and why didn't the Congress party give the money directly to the original company, National Herald, the Associate Journal itself? If they were so keen to revise the paper, why they have to route through Young India? And then since in Young India the major share is with the Gandhis, that's why they wanted the control of the complete property with the Gandhis. And when the Gandhi says that there's a company which doesn't make profit, no, it's wrong. The companies can spend money on a lot of other areas than profiting, and then that expenditure is not questioned. So there's a problem, and that expenditure can be used for some personal objectives of the directors also.
Right, Mr. R.P. Singh, appreciate your speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you very much for joining us. So, the latest news that we are getting to you, of course, is that raids are being conducted at the National Herald House in the national capital. We are also now learning that perhaps the ED is conducting raids as well at some 10 other locations. Now, this is in connection with the National Herald case. Pictures on your screen right now are of the National Herald House in the national capital, where these raids are currently being conducted. Now, this is, of course, in relation to the National Herald case. To remember that Rahul and Sonia Gandhi have both been repeatedly questioned by the Enforcement Directorate in this particular case. Now, also, as these raids now prove, the real estate that was pegged at around 2,000 crores owned by AJL in cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Patna and Panchkula are at the center of this case. So raids are being conducted not just in Delhi but at also various other locations. Just to tell our viewers about the crux of this case, by acquiring AJL, the Gandhis actually owned YIL, also acquired the real estate that was associated with the National Herald newspaper. Now, these were big properties that were in prime areas, not just in Delhi, Mumbai, Patna, as well as Panchkula. Mr. Shehzad Poonawalla on the phone line with us. Mr. Poonawalla, good afternoon. Thank you for speaking to us. How do you see this action by the ED? We are given to understand that about 10 locations are being raided. Obviously, this is being done after the statements of both Rahul and Sonia Gandhi were recorded.
You see, the Enforcement Directorate has a mandate to investigate into issues of money laundering, into issues of criminal proceeds. And as you know, Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi both have recorded their statements. On the basis of that, more information must have been sought, and therefore they are carrying out a procedure of law that they are mandated for. Unfortunately, the Gandhi family has not got any relief from any court of law. They've tried multiple times. They've tried to quash the income tax reassessment order. So instead of playing vendetta victimhood cards, the Congress party should rather cooperate with the law. But unfortunately, we've seen that every time there's question of cooperating with the law, they confront the law. The manner in which the Congress party organized a Satyagraha on the streets, they got violent, the manner in which they've been trying to evade the answers. If there's nothing to hide, why have such a drama and such a Satyagraha on the streets? You should cooperate with the law and let the law do its own course.
Right, absolutely. Now, there are, of course, two rulings of the Delhi High Court, one in 2014 and the one in 2015, which I want to quote, where it said that the accused did appear to have criminal intent. So, in that sense, how do you see these? All right, I think I'm going to, Mr. Poonawalla, thank you for joining us. I think I'm going to go back to Shavan Sen. He has more details and more news on what's emerging. Yes, Shavan, tell us more.
Well, Nupur, at this point in time, what we can confirm for our viewers is the fact that searches are being carried out at 10 locations. In all likelihood, these are only connected to the office premises, is what we are being told.
All right, we seem to have a very poor audio connection with Shavan San. We're going to fix that and go back to him in just a bit. But as Shavan was pointing out, we are given to understand that these are official premises of the National Herald, which are being raided. As we were earlier pointing out, the National Herald House, whose pictures you see on your screens, was raided in Delhi. But apart from that, there are teams from the Enforcement Directorate that are carrying out raids in other 9 locations. These perhaps go on to prove the point that this case actually goes beyond the newspaper. Now, the real estate of the National Herald newspaper is pegged at around 2,000 crore rupees, was in fact owned by AJL in cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Patna and Panchkula. Now, this real estate really is at the heart of this case. In all these locations where these raids are being carried out, National Herald newspaper owned office premises which were really in prime real estate areas. So the ED now, after questioning Rahul and Sonia Gandhi both consecutively, has gone on to raid these premises of the National Herald newspaper. These raids, we are learning, are taking place not just in Delhi but other 10 locations. We're going to try and go back to our correspondents to get more details. I think we've got Shavan joining us live right now. Shavan, tell us more about these other locations that are also being raided now. And as you were earlier saying, it does appear that these are now official premises only of the National Herald newspaper?
Well, in fact, as of now, it appears that it's only the office premises where these searches are being carried out, not the residential properties of any of the accused in this particular case. Now, that's at a preliminary stage right now, Nupur. Things could change in the next few hours, because right now, as the searches are underway, sources within the agency are also quite tight-lipped, because since it's already underway, perhaps they would only be collating all the details in a while from now and also share them. But at this point in time, all that we can confirm is that total of about 10 locations where these searches are being carried out. One location that we've been able to identify is the National Herald House here in the national capital. There is a very high possibility that these searches could be carried out. It's a pan-India search. But having said that, we are waiting for some sort of an official confirmation to really come in from the Enforcement Directorate. They're quite tight-lipped as the searches are underway. What I've also gathered, Nupur, is that these searches were not really early morning searches that were basically carried out. It was a little later in the day when the searches actually started in the national capital. This also, what we can report at this point in time is that the two accused in this particular case, Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, they were essentially asked to furnish details of all the properties. Some of these properties, the Enforcement Directorate suspects, are properties that have been built from the proceeds of crime, which would essentially mean that the Enforcement Directorate would take punitive action by at least carrying out the searches, one, and secondly, in all probability, the attachment can also take place. Now, whether it's going to happen immediately or it's going to take some time, we are not very sure. But if you simply go by the procedures that have been adopted by the agency in other cases, if you apply the same rule here, then perhaps the attachment in this particular case is not really far away. That's also going to take place at some point or the other, given the fact that the Enforcement Directorate, they are supremely confident about the fact that they have been able to establish the money trail, first of all, and secondly, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi haven't really been able to convince the Enforcement Director that they have no role to play whatsoever. And just passing the buck to well, in fact, my colleague Anuj is right now joining us from outside National Herald House. Anuj, just take us through what you're picking up right now.
Well, exactly, Shavan. These are the live images coming in from the Herald House at the ITO of the National Capital. And as we do know that this is at the 12 location where the properties which is related to National Herald or AGL at this point in time, this is being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. We do know, as you were also pointing it out, that the two accused, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, has been questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. We have seen it earlier. What exactly has happened? This was Rahul Gandhi who was grilled by the Enforcement Directorate, and after that this was none other but Sonia Gandhi herself who hold 34% of the share in the company. They both were grilled by the Enforcement Directorate. So we are reporting from the National Herald main office. That's at the main office. I'll ask my video journalist to once again give you the sense of the area from where I'm reporting. This is the ITO of the National Capital, the National Herald office, the Herald House. It is written over there, and the Enforcement Directorate team is in action at this point in time. The raid is underway. At this point in time, this is around 12 locations. What we have been told being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. We do understand this is about the irregularities about the fund. That what exactly has happened. The dots has been connected. The duo Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi was questioned by Enforcement Directorate. This was to connect the dots to match the answers of both, that what exactly has happened and how the property was bought in, how the money trail has gone through. This all are the question which was asked by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi both. Earlier it was told that the duo were not cooperating with the Enforcement Directorate, but Enforcement Directorate connecting the dots, now moving ahead with the thing. This we do understand the case has been registered. We do know that how the petition was given by Subramaniam Swamy of Bharatiya Janata Party, and after that we have seen how the suo motu was taken by the court, and after this now this is the further step which has been, if we talk about the investigation in the particular case, now the things have been taken forward by the Enforcement Directorate, as we are telling it to a viewer that this is around 12 locations which is related, the properties which is related to National Herald, which is related to AGL, being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. So we are reporting from the ITO, from the Herald House, which is the main office of the National Herald in the National Capital, and at this point in time when we are talking, the Enforcement Directorate raid is underway. So this is going to be the part of the investigation, how the investigation has been done, the questioning has been done, and after that this is the next move of the agency, this is the next move of the Enforcement Directorate, where we are seeing at this point in time that the raid is underway. So we will have to wait and watch what exactly will be recovered, whether they are going to take some papers, whether they are going to question the staff, that what exactly has happened and how the funds was transferred, what is exactly the money trail which has been nabbed by the Enforcement Directorate, and on which the Enforcement Directorate is working and doing the investigation. So they are going to again connect the dots, as the investigation is already being taken further by the Enforcement Directorate. The ED team at this point in time is investigating. The ED team at this point in time is raiding the place. So this is the 12 location what we have been told in the National Capital, which is under the radar of Enforcement Directorate, and the raid at this point in time is underway. We do understand the kind of investigation that has been done, the questioning that has been done by the Enforcement Directorate, by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi. There sometime it was stated that the duo was not cooperating with the Enforcement Directorate, but the Enforcement Directorate now clearly having the leads, and as the part of the investigation going ahead with the things at this point in time is raiding the property. So reporting from the National Herald House, from the Herald House in the National Capital, from the ITO, we are breaking this that at 12 location in total in the National Capital, what we have been told, the Enforcement Directorate is raiding when we are talking about National Herald case. Yes, back to you.
Well, some more details now coming in, Anuj, as you were rightly pointing out, about 12 premises, including few in Kolkata. There are no residential premises. In fact, I'm now being told that it's on National Herald and companies that have been involved in suspicious transactions. That's the latest details now coming in, is what I'm getting from my sources. In fact, this is also in the searches are being carried out right now in Kolkata, and also I'm being told that there's a possibility that these searches could be carried out in Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata. These are the three places, but we are getting in some more details as we speak right now. These are massive development actually taking place just days after Sonia Gandhi was actually called in for questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. Also, we can confirm is that there is a list of properties or assets that the Enforcement Directorate had asked Sonia Gandhi to essentially hand over provide details of which I'm given to understand that Sonia Gandhi had essentially done that, and thereafter these searches are being carried out. Now these are companies also where these searches are being carried out, so these are not residential properties. So these are the latest details that are coming in right now. Let me also quickly go back. Let me quickly go back to Anuj. Anuj, just I want you to stay with the latest visuals that are coming in. Are you getting any information about what time did the Enforcement Directorate officials reach the National Herald house? Who are the people who are currently present right now?
Well, Shavan, right now we are waiting for the update that how much is the people. If you talk about the team, how many members of the Enforcement Directorate, the officials of the Enforcement Directorate inside their Herald House is. I'll ask my video journalist to first give you the sense of the area. So there you can see we are getting the visual. These are the live images, and what I've been told that this started at around 10:30, Shavan. At around 10:30 the team reaches here. The team reaches here at the Herald House, but in total when we are breaking these details at this point in time, that in total these are the 12 locations including Mumbai, including Kolkata and the national capital, which is being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. As you were pointing it out, that these are the commercial properties or the properties which belongs to AGL or to National Herald, and how the irregularities was done. This is all about the investigation. The Enforcement Directorate is connecting the dots, is going ahead with the investigation at 10:30 a.m. in the morning today. This exactly is the location from where I am reporting. This is the National Herald House. Herald House is the name of the building at which Enforcement Directorate reaches at around 10:30 in the morning. We are waiting that how many officials of Enforcement Directorate are inside there. We are waiting for the number, whether they are going to come out with the papers or they are going to interrogate or question the staff of the Herald, what exactly the dots where have been connected. And if we talk about the information that has been gathered by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi both, then this is going to be matched by the officials here. This is going to matched by the papers also, that how the asset was bought. If we talk about this particular case, then how the asset was bought of AGL into Young India, and if we believe about the petition, and if we go through the investigation, what we have been told through our sources, then this is the huge amount which is not mentioned. So this is going to be the part of investigation. This is exactly the money trail on which the Enforcement Directorate is looking, that what exactly are the money trails and how this has been done, how the asset was bought, and who all were the people that were involved. Because the major, if we talk about the share, then 34% is a share which is being held by none other but Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, the duo who are accused in the same, the duo who has been questioned by the Enforcement Directorate in the same case, in the National Herald case. So we have seen it how Rahul Gandhi was called in by the Enforcement Directorate at the Enforcement Directorate office in the national capital itself, and there the questioning we have seen how it has been done. Rather, what we have been told that Rahul Gandhi was not cooperating in the manner in which ED was looking. Later, this was none other but Sonia Gandhi herself, the interim president of the Congress party, because the duo is having the share, the duo is having 34% share in the company. That's why they were called, and to understand about the money trail, how exactly everything has happened, how the asset was brought. This exactly is the part of investigation on which the Enforcement Directorate at this point in time is working. But this is huge. This is major. When Enforcement Directorate now connecting the dots after doing the investigation, after doing the round of questioning with Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, now moving ahead, this can be called as the next step of the investigation, because we have seen it. Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, both the duo, were called by Enforcement Directorate. This was the list of questions which was put in front of them, and after going through the investigation and the questioning, now this is the next step of the Enforcement Directorate. Yes, back to you, Shavan.
Yeah, stay with me. In fact, we're getting in correspondent Ishan Dev from Kolkata as well. Okay, let me also go across to Abhishek. Abhishek, we are hearing it's a multi-city raid. It's a multi-city raid in Kolkata. Some of the operators are the firms that were allegedly used to route money And I think one of the companies was Dotex. We broke details of Dotex earlier on Republic TV, and this comes after their questioning, indicating, like Shawan was saying, that there's much more than what agencies, were suspecting. And that's why they're reading now, even after the questioning began. But what this tells you is that there could be more to come in the next few days. Politically, this is a huge setback for the Congress party because they own Herald House.
Naturally so. So what has happened is, Niranjan, that over the last four sessions of Rahul Gandhi and 2 sessions of Sonia Gandhi, there is a lot of information that has been gathered by the sleuths of the Enforcement Directorate, and that needs to be correlated with facts on the ground. So, for example, a record of what all properties are owned by the National or were owned by the National Herald that were subsequently transferred to Young Indian. That is one aspect. Whatever answers have been given by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi in terms of ownership of those properties, are those facts there on the ground with these 10 or 12 locations? Remember, Subramanian Swamy has always claimed, Niranjan, that these properties spread across the country from Chandigarh in north to Mumbai in south and Bhopal and Delhi in between, even Jaipur perhaps and Bhopal. These properties range anything in between 2,000 crore rupees to 5,000 crore rupees. So that net worth has to be assessed, because then only you can peg a value to the, scamming of whatever funds that happened, So if when Subramanian Swamy makes the charge that just for a paltry 50 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees, even that was taken via some Hawala channel, how much of property was actually acquired by the Gandhis through the Young India platform? Also, when the Gandhis have claimed in their questioning that Young India was started for charity, what charity has been done? Is it getting reflected on the ground? Was it done through these properties? Because by itself, Young India does not have any property. All the properties were owned by National Herald. So, I think this is more like a correlation exercise on facts. This is checking facts on the ground. This is connecting the dots from whatever information has been gathered by the questioning that ED has done of the Gandhis to, the properties that exist on the ground. This is a very comprehensive exercise, the next stage of which obviously can be to ascertain the exact ownership, and Shawan would be in a better position to tell us whether this leads to taking away those properties or limiting the ownership right of these properties. Okay, so Shushila is there joining us from the Republic Bangla newsroom in Kolkata. Niranjan, and maybe Shushila can tell us what's happening in Calcutta, because apart from the properties of National Herald, Kolkata also has this Dotex connection to the National Herald's investigation. So, Shushila, over to you if you can tell us what's happening there on the ground in Kolkata connected with the National Herald's investigation by the Enforcement Directorate.
Exactly. From this morning, we were looking carefully at the CGO office of ED office, and we saw movement. 7 teams are out for raids, and a few of these teams are for raiding different properties of Partho Chatterjee, but also a few teams are on National Herald case, as you rightly informed. 12 locations in the whole country are raided by the ED related to National Herald case, and right now in Kolkata, though we do not have detailed information yet, but ED sources from Kolkata CGO office are telling us some of these teams which are out for raiding, some of these teams among these 7 teams are dedicated for this National Herald case. So right now we have 2 updates from Kolkata. One is the teams which are raiding Partho Chatterjee and Orpita Mukherjee's apartments, and another is the teams which are right now dedicatedly raiding different areas which are related to the National Herald case. Right now in Kolkata, there is a huge deployment of securities outside the CGO complex and also in different locations where this ED team will visit. And apart from that, 7 teams which are out, some of these teams are right now in Kolkata and some of these teams are right now in the districts. We are keeping a close watch and our reporters are following these teams, and we will be informing whatever is happening right now in Kolkata and the districts from West Bengal. Back to the studio.
There from Kolkata, Abhishek, that there are multi-level raids. In fact, here Shushila is saying that the ED is is having a much more harder task to carry out in Kolkata with 2 cases now they're handling. In Partha Chatterjee case as well, raids are being conducted. In the case of the Freedom Struggle for Profit scam as well, in the case of National Herald and the Sonia and Rahul Gandhi Link Company, they're having to carry out raids. So multiple teams on the streets of Kolkata, in different parts of Kolkata. CRPF has been deployed, we are told, for the security of these teams as well. So while we stay on that story, I'm going back to the Herald House in Delhi, where it began this morning, where my colleague Anuj is. Anuj, why don't you tell our viewers, walk around Anuj, and show us around the Herald House and tell us what are the different offices in that building. Because what we also know is that this building, which was given a leeway by different governments in the guise of press functioning, etc., eventually made profits through commercial deals. That's one of the aspects of this case that many people may not know about. So why don't you tell our viewers about the different companies that are housed in the Herald House?
Well, exactly, Niranjan, let me give you the sense. Let me give you the sense of the area. This exactly is the Herald House as we are talking, and nearby there were different newspapers, offices. This is a corporate building, what I've been told and what we do know. I'll move ahead. I'll try and get the pictures clear, that what all are the offices that are here. As we can see the people, this is the entry gate. This is the entry gate of the Herald House from where I'm reporting, and what I've been told, Niranjan, that this started at around 10:30 a.m. in the morning today, when the ED officials reaches here. 10:30 a.m. in the morning, ED officials reaches here, and this is total. If we talk about in total, then this is 12 location which is under the radar, which is being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. So if we talk about these visuals, then these are the live images coming in from the Herald House. This is the Herald House. I'll go back, and as we will be showing a 360 view to our viewers of what exactly this office is, where this office exactly, the building exactly is situated. This is the ITO of the National Capital, where this particular building is, and this is called the Herald House. These are the visuals. Next to this building is Children's Book Trust, which I can see right of that is the metro station. And yes, this is the Herald House. At this point in time, when we are talking, Niranjan, 12 location is being raided, and at 10:30 in the morning, these were the officials of Enforcement Directorate who reaches here. The dots has been connected. We do understand, we do know the questioning, the 4 round of Rahul Gandhi, 2 round of Sonia Gandhi, and after that the things has been concluded, the dots has been connected. This can be called the next step of Enforcement Directorate when they are moving ahead with the investigation, when the dots has been already connected, and they are now searching the properties which is related to National Herald, which is somewhat connected to AGL, how the asset was brought. So what we have been told and what we are expecting, they are going to deep into the investigation to look into the papers, that how this particular asset was bought and what exactly is happening. If we talk about this particular money trail on which Enforcement Directorate is working, where Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi duo has been questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. The questioning has been already done about the property, about the money trail, about the transactions which has been done. So all these things has been already noted down by the Enforcement Directorate, and now reaching to the properties wherever this is situated, as we are telling it to our viewers that this.
Just getting some more breaking news updates there. Anuj, stay with me. What a day it is for the Enforcement Directorate. We are hearing there are more raids. Not just in Kolkata, not just in Delhi, not just in Mumbai in the National Herald case. There are fresh raids in the Sanjay Raut case. In the Sanjay Raut case as well, there are more ED raids in Mumbai. That's the big breaking news update right now. Sanjay Raut has been sent to 4 days of ED custody. He will be in ED custody till the 4th of August. And Partha Chatterjee case, there are raids in Kolkata. Sanjay Raut case, there are raids in Mumbai. And in the National Herald case, or the Freedom Struggle for Profit scam, there are raids on in Mumbai as we speak. And that's the detail that we have as of now. More individuals are under the scanner. We are told that more individuals are under the scanner. The BJP also held a news conference earlier today in the Sanjay Raut case over the kind of statements we are hearing from political leaders. And in Mumbai, Sanjay Raut, in the 1,000 crore scam, there are more raids. And Sandeep Singh, my colleague in Mumbai, our correspondent, joining us with the details. Sandeep, where are these raids being held? What do we know about these raids? Who's being raided? And do we know the locations?
See, as far as the raids are concerned, the raids are underway at two locations in Mumbai so far. And remember, his custody has been taken by Enforcement Directorate and questioning is still underway. So after the revelation and questioning session with Sanjay Raut, now the raids are underway at two locations in Mumbai. And so far there is only this much information that has been given by Enforcement Directorate. Where these raids are carried away or which companies are being raided, so far no disclosure has been made for ED. But as of now, what we have been informed is that there has been two places that have been raided by ED right now.
Yeah, okay, stay with me. Sanjay Raut also raided. I mean, he's in ED custody, but in his case there are more raids. Sanjay Raut case, the 1,000 crore Patrachol scam in Mumbai. There are raids in that case. At least two locations, we are told, are being raided by the Enforcement Directorate. ED also in Mumbai conducting raids in the National Herald case. Multiple cities, multiple crackdowns of the Enforcement Directorate. All these cases are high-profile cases. In Mumbai, Sanjay Raut, a parliamentarian, arrested by ED, sent to ED custody. The court says his family made money. That is in the Sanjay Raut case. In Bengal, Partha Chatterjee case, a Bengal minister who's now sacked. In his case, there are more raids. And also in the case of National Herald, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi were questioned. There are more raids in that particular case. I think we're getting in some reactions. Let's play out. Let's play that out. My colleague Kishale has some more details. Kishale, what is the breaking news updates now coming in? Kishale.
Right now, Partho Chatterjee and Orpita Mukherjee, they are taken out after their medical test is done in Joka ESI. And Orpita Mukherjee again emphasized that I did not know where this money came from and the money was put in my flat when I was not present. Very important breaking that Orpita Mukherjee again said that I do not know whose money is this. I don't know from where this came. I was not present when this money was put inside my apartment, inside my flat. They are right now taken out of Joka ESI hospital and they will be now taken back to the CGO office in ED office where they'll be grilled again, they'll be interrogated again as they have been done in the last 50 hours. Niranjan, so this is a big update that Orpita Mukherjee again said that this is not my money, I do not know whose money is this. It was put by Partho Chatterjee probably, she did not say the name, but it was put by someone when I was not present. Back to the studio.
Stay with us. Those are pictures of Partha Chatterjee, sacked Bengal minister, leaving. The twist in Bengal is that Arpita, who's the aide of a sacked minister, says she doesn't know where the money came from. Of course, after arrest, anybody can say that. Partha Chatterjee yesterday said it's not my money. So whose money was it? Where did 50 crore rupees come from in cash? And why was it in the homes of Arpita Mukherjee? Arpita, बताइए किस-किस ये पैसा आपका है? इसका पैसा है? इसका
अर्पिता मुखर्जी का मेडिकल हो चुका है और यहाँ पर अभी पार्थ चटर्जी और अर्पिता मुखर्जी दोनों को ले जाया जा रहा है.
So that's the video from Kolkata where Arpita Mukherjee and Partha Chatterjee were taken after their medical. Arpita, okay, I'm cutting across to Republic Bangla. Let's listen in once again from Republic Bangla. Kishale with the details. Kishale, if it's not her money, how did money reach her house? I mean, she can say whatever she wants, Kishore, but what is the truth? Can she deny it?
Exactly. Last time Partho Chatterjee said that this is not my money and time will tell whose money this is. And then now Arpita Mukherjee is saying, like last time, that this is not my money, it was put in my apartment. She also said, to note, Niranjan, that in my flat, in my apartment, I did not have the access to enter. Partho Chatterjee entered and his men entered when they wanted. So all these allegations right now, Arpita Mukherjee, all these things that Arpita Mukherjee is saying is in fact a part of this whole drama that's coming out. Last time Arpita Mukherjee fell down when she was being taken inside Joka ESI hospital, and right now we can see Partho Chatterjee, who seems clearly very uncomfortable when he's being taken out of the Joka ESI hospital. Let me remind you, Niranjan, that there has been 50 hours of interrogation, back-to-back non-stop interrogation, and there are these repeated medical tests for which they are brought out of the ED office and then to Joka ESI hospital. So right now the news point is that Arpita Mukherjee, though she is saying that this is not my money, but is that a possibility that amount of huge pile of money was put inside Arpita Mukherjee's flat in her apartment without any knowledge, and she didn't know anything about it or from where it came. As it has been put officially by Trinamool Congress that Arpita Mukherjee is not someone that they know or have any connection with the party, but Partho Chatterjee, who was a senior minister and has been there in the party since day one, that person is right now deep inside this allegation of scam. And right now what's happening in Bengal is everywhere in the country, where we can see Partho Chatterjee and Arpita Mukherjee are in news everywhere, and they are repeatedly saying this is not our money, but time will tell whose money is this. So we are looking at the fact that actually whose money is this? Is it of the party? Is it of someone else? So right now ED is also looking into the matter, but right now this is the news. They are being taken out. Partho Chatterjee looks sick and uncomfortable. Arpita Mukherjee saying this is not my money, I did not have any information about it. They are taken back to ED office and they'll be grilled again. Niranjan.
Yes, thank you for that, Kishore. Staying with the story, staying with the pictures there. Breaking the story from Kolkata, from Mumbai, from Delhi. Even if it's the Partho Chatterjee case, the raids are on there in Kolkata, the searches are on, investigation continues in Kolkata, but the story is moving in different cities. And the reason I say it's moving in different cities is because most of the details are also coming in from the national capital. We're getting in more details. Shaman is tracking the story from there. And while we stay that, let's play out. Here's what Arpita said. Arpita, she fainted a few days back. Here's what she said today.
আমার অনুপস্থিতিতে আমার টাকা ঢোকানো হয়েছে।
চলো চলো অর্পিতা এত টাকা কোথায় অর্পিতা অর্পিতা এত টাকা কোথায় পেয়েছো অর্পিতা অর্পিতা বলো অর্পিতা টাকা কোথায় পেয়েছো
আমার অনুপস্থিতিতে আমার টাকা ঢোকানো হয়েছে।
চলো চলো
Short break here on Republic TV. When we come back, we're getting you all the details on the three big stories developing. One, of course, the Bengal cash scam. The live pictures are coming in there. Both Arpita and Partha saying the money is not ours. We don't know whose money it is. We don't know who kept the money. There's a desperate bid to try and hide from the cash. That and much more coming up. Stay tuned.
In the CBSE 2022 boards, the toppers for classes 12 and 10 are from Amity once again. At Amity, we are privileged to educate brilliant students and express our gratitude to our teachers and school leaders who passionately work for the success of our children.
An aerial attack was carried out on a residential house in the Sherpur area of Kabul. The security and intelligence agencies of the Islamic Emirate said that the attack was carried out by the American drones to eliminate Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri. President Joe Biden hailed the drone attack where U.S. intelligence officials tracked down Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri to a home in downtown Kabul where he was hiding out with his family. Biden called the mission a total success, saying that he hoped it brought closure to 9/11 victims. Vice President Kamala Harris called climate change an urgent crisis as she detailed the Biden administration's efforts to respond to disasters and wildfires. Harris announced more than $1 billion in grants to states to address flooding and extreme heat exacerbated by climate change. Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke at the United Nations meeting on the landmark Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, where he urged global leaders to declare Ukraine a new nuclear weapon-free zone. Clashes between the police and Departmental Association of Cocoa Producers took place in La Paz in Bolivia.
और मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारा देश उसके पर खरे उतरेंगे।
जोश के मनी
Thank you, sir. Sir, as you know, the Kerala is a extended city. It is a tourist destination. It is a pilgrim's destination. And so the floating crowd is very large. Domestically and international people come over there. And so Kerala is prone to communicable diseases like this. So my question to the minister is, will the central give some assistance to the government of Kerala, especially if a suspected case comes over there, we send the sample to Pune.
The European Commission on Monday urged authorities in Kosovo and Serbia to resolve rising tensions through dialogue and negotiations only, as Kosovo delays measures stirring tensions with minority Serbs.
Well, the European Union and the member states, of course, we are following the events and developments, especially in North Kosovo, very closely and with concern. What is important to say on behalf of the European Union is that everyone involved in this needs to remain calm, and any uncoordinated and unilateral actions that jeopardize the stability and security on the ground and which impede the freedom of movement of all citizens there need to stop immediately.
An aerial attack was carried out on a residential house in the Sherpur area of Kabul. The security and intelligence agencies of the Islamic Emirate said that the attack was carried out by the American drones to eliminate Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri. President Joe Biden hailed the drone attack where U.S. intelligence officials tracked down Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri to a home in downtown Kabul where he was hiding out with his family. Biden called the mission a total success, saying that he hoped it brought closure to 9/11 victims. Vice President Kamala Harris called climate change an urgent crisis as she detailed the Biden administration's efforts to respond to disasters and wildfires. Harris announced more than $1 billion in grants to states to address flooding and extreme heat exacerbated by climate change. Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke at the United Nations meeting on the landmark Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, where he urged global leaders to declare Ukraine a new nuclear weapon-free zone. Clashes between the police and Departmental Association of Cocoa Producers took place in La Paz in Bolivia. Cocoa growers are demanding the closure of new illegal cocoa markets. The White House has welcomed the announcement that the first ship carrying
और देखिए संजय राउत को लेकर निकल चुकी है ईडी की टीम।
Mr. Raut, 4 दिन की रिमांड है, 4 दिन की रिमांड।
At Jabalpur, there's been a fire at a hospital. 5 lives have been lost.
The United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri.
World's most wanted and Osama bin Laden's number 2 taken out by the US in Kabul airstrike. Pakistan Taliban roll out in the open. Zawahiri, housed in Pakistan-backed Haqqani-owned plot. Did ISI handmaidens protect Zawahiri?
Escape for Raut. ED intensifies crackdown raids on across 2 locations in Mumbai. And in fact, it is no escape for Raut as an ED intensifies the crackdown raids on across 2 locations in the maximum city. Press twist in the Bengal cash scammer. Now says it's not my money. Don't know where the money came from.
Getting in some big breaking news updates right now from the newsroom. In fact, we have some exclusive details of the raids on Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi linked companies. I'm picking up some exclusive details. Shawan Sen picking up the exclusive details right now. Shell companies in AJL or Associated Journals Limited. Shell companies in AJL, scam under scanner, suspicious transactions from these companies to Young Indian is now under scanner. Unsecured loans received by Young Indian under the scanner. ED suspects that the Rahul and Sonia Gandhi linked Young Indian received money from shell companies. Dotex company in Kolkata under the scanner. Money received from Dotex in Kolkata is under the scanner. ED suspects that Dotex is a shell company that gave money to Rahul Gandhi as a loan, to Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi as a loan. Dotex, the details of which we brought you details. This is a big update. Getting in the full details of why the ED is raiding at least 12 locations in connection with the freedom struggle for profit scam, in a story that we at Republic TV have tracked very closely. We'll try and get Dr. Subramaniam Swamy on the phone line. But we can tell you that as far as the investigation goes, there are several breaking news updates we're getting in. Maybe Shawan can get us more details. Can we get Shawan also on the phone line, please? Shell companies in Associated Journals. I repeat, Shell companies in Associated Journals Limited, scam under scanner. There were suspicious transactions from these companies to Young Indian. The Young Indian, which is linked to the Congress party, linked to Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. There are suspicious transactions from these companies to the Rahul and Sonia linked Young Indian, which is now under the scanner. There were unsecured loans received by Young Indian, which is now under the scanner. and the Enforcement Directorate suspects young Indian received money from the shell companies. Dotex, the firm that we broke details of earlier in Kolkata, is under the scanner. The money received from Dotex. Shawan joining me with the details of this company in Kolkata and why this company is under scanner. Shawan.
The big breaking news now coming in is that shell companies involved in suspicious transactions are the major focus of these searches that are being carried out by the Enforcement Directorate, Pan-India searches. We have now got a confirmation that in the national capital as well as in Kolkata. A massive focus is right now in Kolkata primarily because of one such company which goes by the name of Dotex, which had basically given the money to the young Indian company. About 1 crore is what the amount that was received by young Indian, and that money was essentially used to take over some of the commercial assets of AJL. Now, important to point out here is that the Enforcement Directorate suspects that this company, Dotex appears to be a shell company, a company which has not done any business. But despite that, this company gives money about 1 crore rupees to young Indian. So the question here is that how exactly was young Indian receiving money from shell companies? And not one, there are multiple other shell companies which have come under the scanner. Let me bring in BJP spokesperson Nalin Kohli, who is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Kohli, massive action by the Enforcement Directorate. Top sources now confirming to Republic TV that shell companies are now under the scanner. The focus of this entire search, the raids that are being carried out, is primarily on suspicious transactions, money that was received by young Indian. Mr. Kohli, if you can hear me, top sources now confirming to Republic TV that the search this time is primarily focusing on shell companies. Enforcement Directorate suspects that shell companies were basically giving money to young Indian. We'll try and reconnect with Nalin Kohli in a short while from now. But undoubtedly, this is going to result in a massive political spar between the Congress and the BJP also, because remember, the opposition parties have essentially been saying that all of this is with a singular aim of only targeting the opposition leaders. Remember, that's the allegation that has been leveled against the Enforcement Directorate also. But having said that, the Enforcement Directorate has essentially countered this by their actions. They say that, this investigation, which has been going on for several years put together, the only reason why they had basically called in for questioning Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi was only after senior Congress leaders were called in for questioning. Nalin Kohli has joined us back on this broadcast. Mr. Kohli, the question that I was asking you was that top sources have now confirmed, but that this time the searches are particularly focusing on shell companies. ED suspects that young Indian has received money from shell companies, not one but multiple shell companies.
Well, I can't comment about the ED and the reasons behind the investigation or what is the target, because you as a media house obviously will be able to, being a sort of state of a democracy, get those information from investigative agencies. However, what I can certainly point out is that the questions on this case in India National Herald case have been on for the last 10 years, prior to the coming of the Narendra Modi government. The question about why should a political party, which is the Congress party, which under the representation of donations for political activity, why would it in the first place transfer? That is not the job of a political party. That is for banks or non-banking financial institutions to do so. Second, thereafter, this loan is assigned to a new company which is primarily owned by Rahul Gandhi ji and Sonia Gandhi ji. It's a family-owned company for a small amount in which hundreds and thousands of crores, I mean at the very least it's hundreds of crores, possibly 2,000 crores worth of the assets of this company of National Herald, which is AGL, gets transferred. Now this raises the entirety of the deal. In this matter, which was raised with the court, Mr. Rahul Gandhi and perhaps Mrs. Sonia Gandhi are out on bail for the fact that the court has not quashed the complaint and it continues. It's to be investigated. Until today, Congress party hasn't come out with details on it. They have alleged political vendetta.
Just 1 minute, Mr. Kohli. Mr. Kohli, sorry to interrupt you there. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mr. Kohli. 1 minute, just getting in Dr. Subramaniam Swamy also on the phone line. Mr. Kohli, stay with me. Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, was a complainant in this case, and he knows all the facts of this National Herald case, and he knows what the different routes that were used. Allegedly, Dr. Swamy, we are hearing that in connection with the raids in 12 locations, shell companies in AJL scam are under scanner. Suspicious transactions from these companies to Young Indian is now under scanner. Unsecured loans received by Young Indian is under the scanner. And the ED suspecting that this Young Indian received money from shell firms and Dotex, the company, is also under scanner. Now, is this just the tip of the iceberg? Dr. Swamy, you know the facts of the case. What can you tell our viewers about the different routes used to make the money?
Well, I mean, all you're saying is that the crime that they have committed is multiple. But the fact is that they are under prosecution, presently under one violation of the law, and that is the money that they got as far as foreign exchange is concerned, the money they got from Dotex. It was not on, no interest was charged. And they were, not only no interest was charged, but no mortgage was taken. And it was in the accounts books of the Dotex, it says donation. And in the Young Indian accounts, it says loan. Now, they get this 1 crore loan, out of which they take 50 lakhs, give it to Congress, and Congress happily says that we are writing off the 90 crores loan in favor of Young Indian, and the Young Indian becomes the owner of 90 crores. But the income tax has shown, the income tax investigation, which is now finalized, and which is awaiting a Supreme Court clearance because they have gone in appeal, the income tax has found that there was no 90 crores at all. That is a fictional number, primarily to convert it into 9 crore shares of 10 rupees each and make Young Indian the owner of 99.1% of the shares of the Associated Journals Limited. So without any doubt, the Associated Journals Limited is a wholly owned company of Young Indian. It may not have merged with Young Indian. It doesn't need to because it's wholly owned. This is a fraud of a huge magnitude, and that's why in the Criminal Procedure Code and the IPC, I have taken out 4 particular sections which will send them to jail for 25 years if convicted, of course. But the fact is, what is